Okay, folks, here we go.
Guys, here we go. Let's have a good show.
1B, stand by. Okay,
Yeah.
Yacht,
Yeah,
take it.
take it at midfield.
Okay,
Just go
take
right
it.
now.
Up
Go to
to
camera
12.
3.
Can
3.
you
Go to the perfect,
you.
just like that.
I'll just go ahead.
Yeah, graphics 2 is going to be up for the first.
Okay.
Take it. Go right now. Go to camera 3. Go. Yep. Go to the perfect, just like that. No music.
I'm going to hand to Q, Sophie.
Wait for it.
On radio in the Canal Zone.
All right, guys, mic check.
Go ready.
Okay, Ricky, mic.
Yep, I am ready.
Wait for it.
Willie, mic check.
Yep, let's go.
1B, stand by.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and we're live.
Okay, and go for it, guys.
Oh, it is live Friday night, March 21st. Already almost the end of March. Here we go. Just past St. Patty's Day weekend and all that. But nonetheless, happy hour at the Balboa Yacht Club. Happy to have you guys on tonight. Ricky, what's going on, man? Happy Friday.
Hey, Willie. Thanks for having me on again. Thank you very much, everybody. As you guys know, it is Friday, September 21st, 5 p.m. in the West Coast, 8 p.m. in the East Coast, and 7 p.m. in Panama.
Yes.
Hello and welcome to the happy hour at the Balboa Yacht Club podcast, a show that is all about the Panama Canal and the Canal Zone and the Canal Zone Way. A show that always starts with a toast.
Salute.
Salute, everybody, and thank you for joining us.
Mm-hmm. In my Balboa Trading Company Mola Tervis here.
You know what?
Nice.
I keep mine. My dad bought me this thing when he went to Germany, so I don't know how authentic it is, but it's one of those favorite cups.
It's from Germany. It's authentic enough.
Yeah. And he bought it like in 1980, so it's got a couple of years, But anyways, everybody, thank you again for joining us. Willie and I both born and raised in the Canal Zone, Panama.
Mm-hmm.
We bring you a weekly episode of our show. Episodes such as History of the Canal, episodes such as what's going on in the Zonian community, the latest in our political news, which tonight we have a little bit, and of course, all our fun segments, which next week we will be doing a lot of it. The Kahoot game will be back on next week where you guys can participate, and we'll have some great prizes for the winners.
And improved on that because we extended the time on those to 45 seconds. We didn't realize that with the lag on getting it out on the live stream that by the time you guys were playing, you only had a few seconds to answer. So nonetheless, I extended it to 45 seconds, so there's plenty of time now to get those questions answered.
And we also have the phone call-in coming on pretty soon. Something that
Willie's
working on that.
It's almost there. Somebody built an app to put onto this platform, this EV Mux platform that we use. So that's going to be cool to have people that are able to call in and have a kind of a little visual effect when they're talking. So looking forward to that. Stay tuned.
Well, guys, that is our show. We have a great show for you today. And let's just do a second toast and let Willie take it over from here.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Salute everybody and salute to the folks out there. Jim, I got a question for you. I'm trying to see if we can get scheduled a Pan Canal pilot show with Andrew Eftimitis again. Hopefully, maybe early May if possible. But I want to do that Gatun lock segment, and I want to see if you might be available for that. I got to get a hold of David Cohen, who's on the tugboats as well. Trying to get another gentleman on that was in marine traffic control at the time, but I haven't been able to reach him. So if anyone else was involved that might be able to join us as well, I think that's going to make for a really cool segment about just transiting the Gatun locks from everybody's standpoint, from somebody in the tugboat, somebody on the locks, obviously Andrew on the ship, somebody in marine traffic control. I think all of those aspects would make for a really cool story to teach us, us Zonians, some of that stuff that we took for granted. It was all sitting right there next to us all the time, but it was always there. We never really bothered to take the time to learn it, except for a few people, of course, like Dave Dahlstrom, our historian. But most of us didn't, and it would be cool to learn that,
we were always told this is the eighth wonder of the world, but it kind of never registered. It was kind of like, yeah, okay, well, big deal. When's
I
the
would
next football game?
exactly. I would imagine some people maybe in Egypt or like that are like, yeah, it's the pyramids. Okay, you know what? All right.
Yeah, but in one of our research, Willie, we saw that weekly 4,000 people would visit the Miraflores Lock. Back during the Canal Zone days. I mean, I'm
Right.
sure today is a lot more, but still, back in the Canal, I don't remember seeing 4,000,
Right.
people hanging around the Canal Zone, but they were there.
Yeah.
But like you said, you're right. We were just too occupied with the life of the Zonian community.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And would love to get Captain Carey. Who is Captain Carey? Refresh my memory if in case I'm forgetting or I don't know who that is. But yeah, that would be fun to do. Absolutely, Jim. That's what I'm thinking is because it was a team effort. There's a lot of coordination going on. We did it one time with Andrew where we were talking about okay, what was it like approaching Miraflores locks with a big ship like that? Because obviously a ship of that size, it doesn't have brakes like cars, right? So everything you do, you have to anticipate it, with a lot of time ahead, right? As far as drifting and turning and everything else. So he kind of walked us through it, and it was great. It was interesting, but to hear then somebody on the locks what they're doing as that ship prepares to arrive, and as they're getting their people ready and everybody in position, what they're doing, how the mules are set up, right, and then again with the tugs, what they're doing to their part, who they're communicating with, and what they're doing to help the ship out. I think to me that would be a fascinating story to tell. And again, a lot of these things we want to get them into the museum later on eventually, so somebody 100 years from now is doing a history paper on the Panama Canal. They learn these things from just watching a cool video of some people that explained it.
Yeah, just
So
like we do with the University of Florida's library. Somebody
yeah,
will be doing that
absolutely.
in the future and seeing these things.
Yep. No,
Well,
for
guys,
sure.
that's what our show's all about. We have to tell you all about the Canal Zone and our Canal Zone way.
Yeah,
Tell us,
absolutely.
Willie, what we got coming up tonight?
Well, we have, of course, we don't miss our bochinche because that's a staple now, and so
A
you got some.
short one tonight.
It is well, we fingers crossed that that's the case, but we know how that works typically. But
Yeah.
but if we can get the short one, great. We have some great guests coming on here that are going to talk about another interesting aspect of our life. We normally would want to do this in the fall, but football season has actually started now here in Panama just recently, or actually getting ready to start. I think this weekend or
Getting
next
ready. I
weekend.
think it's a week or two. Yeah, their big jamboree's coming up
Yeah.
at Balboa Stadium, by the way.
Yes, exactly. That's so
And
cool
they
because
consider Balboa Stadium as a gem. They is complete respect towards that stadium, and I really
it is
appreciate
just
that.
paying homage to it. That
Yeah,
was the I think about it. The Shrine Bowl games were all played there. No matter who played. Playing for the Rams, we were like the Kiwanis, who's our guest tonight. We were more often than not the teams playing in the Shrine Bowl. That's just the way it worked. But there was a couple of seasons I played that we weren't in the Shrine Bowl, and it was strange to go to watch a game at Balboa Stadium that had the Clayton Cowboys and the Kiwanis playing, for example. There was no Balboa Rams playing at the Balboa Stadium. It was
yeah,
kind of bizarre. It was one of those
yeah.
things, but that's the reason why that stadium is the Yankee Stadium of sports back then, in that era. And so it makes sense to have that jamboree and even their Shrine Bowls and a lot of their other games I've seen played there. So it's
At
pretty
Balboa,
cool, man.
yeah, and the other two football stadiums are being beautiful. They're like
Well, yeah,
one of them is just like a NFL practice facility. It's
yeah,
unbelievable. It's the Copa Airline Field, and then they have another one that I guess the government paid for over there by where the horse track was and the
correct.
basketball and the
That's where they
stadium.
had their whole way back when sports complex when the Pan American Games came to Panama way back in the day.
Correct, correct. The Central Americans and the Pan Americans, correct. And back there, they have a huge football field, which I've been to. Again, two great stadiums, but Balboa Stadium is still
And that's
the the
when you
big
look at all
OG
that,
daddy.
and you're talking 2025 now, and football is huge in Panama, and that really is a Canal Zone legacy. That was something that the Canal Zone was playing in the 50s, at the high school level, and then of course late 60s, early 70s, the junior football league started, and of course the Kiwanis joined shortly after. It was only 3 or 4 years after the league had started that they came in, and
Correct. Not that long, much longer. Yeah.
And they carried the torch. It was handed off to them when the Americans left, and they've made the best of it, and created an amazing league now that's really competitive, and it's cool to see the social media. If you're go looking around on Facebook and Instagram, and start typing in Kiwanis
YouTube.
football with the league and YouTube and stuff. It's pretty sharp what they have going on there. They really have evolved and grown that league. They have spring leagues. They have women's flag football leagues that are really competitive. And remember last year
Participating in
we
the
had.
Olympics this year.
Yeah, exactly. And remember when Coach Holland was on with us last year? Uh, he was talking about a lot of the high school. They have that varsity league. It's not really a school league per se, but it's part of the football league, if I'm not mistaken. But those guys, he's either sending some of them to the United States, but others he's sending them to Mexico, and they play football in Mexico, which is apparently college football in Mexico is a big thing as well, which was
Mhm.
interesting. But that's for a little while later. We're not going to talk about
That's a
that
little
right
while
now.
later. The guys that
Yeah,
we have on are the DNA of 50 plus years of football in
yeah,
Panama. These are the original guys, the original football players that we're going to have on tonight. So we're going to have a great conversation with them.
yeah. We're going to talk about where their first practice field. I mean, you talk about nothing, and I remember. I think it was the other night. Robert Joyce was telling us a story about bringing a van onto the field to push, because that was their equivalent of a sled. They didn't have the equipment that
Correct.
that we had access to. So, but anyhow,
They may do, and they figured it out.
they
It
did,
took them
and
about 2 3 years, 2 years, I think, to get really good.
yeah,
And then they have just been competitive since.
yeah. So,
So
but
tonight, guys, we're going to have those.
yeah, we'll tell that story here in just a bit. Of course, Ricky again has some good bochinche. Let's say hello to some folks that have chimed in here. Uh, who's going to the museum? Yeah, the 29th, the museum luncheon in Gainesville is on. Don't forget, mark it on your calendars if you're in the Florida area. I'm going for sure. I'm not sure who else is. Ricky probably not going to go. He's a little too far for him. It's a little more than a road trip for him. But the museum is a great supporter of the Canal Zone. That the Panama Canal Museum collection is a wonderful repository. All kinds of great information on there: newspapers, yearbooks, photos, videos, you name it. I mean, even the canal records, and I'm talking yearbooks from the 1920s. I mean, it's just amazing the collection they have that it's all digitized. It's amazing to look at. Like you can spend hours there going down a rabbit hole of yearbooks and spillway editions, and it's a lot of fun. It's a great collection. And I think membership is what, $29 a year, something very affordable. But if you're in the Central Florida area, try and make it out there on the 29th, next Saturday, and support the museum. They're going to have in fact, I should be pulling this up. Who their speaker is? It's probably on the Pan Canal Society page. I'll try and pull it up here. But they've got a great speaker coming on that's going to do a great presentation. But nonetheless, go check them out. The Panama Canal Museum collection, and get involved and get a membership there. So yeah, I'll see you there, Jen. I'm looking forward to it. And okay, I'm out of the baseball mode and into the football mode tonight. Yeah, absolutely. It is baseball season, and we're talking football season because that's going on in Panama. And here I'm wearing my Panama soccer jersey because Panama had a big win last night against United States, and now they're playing in the finals of the Nations League uh, tournament here on Sunday against Mexico. So should be a good game. I actually like Panama's chances. Mexico's not looking that strong the last few years in international soccer, and Panama actually is looking really strong. So I'm thinking, obviously, I'm rooting for Panama, but if I was betting, I probably would put some money on Panama only because if there's a good chance of beating Mexico right now, it's a chance to do it. And Panama's been playing some good soccer recently. So stay tuned. I may do a watch along. I don't know. I'm thinking about it and watch the game and maybe jump online and chit chat. Soccer is my favorite sport of all. I watch soccer religiously. I'm a huge Manchester United fan, so I love watching these games. It was great watching Panama celebrate when they scored that goal. You see how they went it was towards the end of the game, of course, and so the CBS crew, which is an international crew from mostly Europeans, they were getting set up, by the touchline there in their their studio chairs and everything, and these guys came jumping over and jumped onto the stage, and it was really cool to see. It was a really cool celebration to watch Panama do what they did, in the United States in a tournament that no Central American country has ever made it to the final until Panama. So,
Oh, right on. That's
yeah,
great news.
so that's exciting. I'm looking forward to that. It's at 8 o'clock Eastern time on Sunday evening. So, check them out, guys, because hopefully the Marea Roja can pull it off and bring home the gold there, man, which is really, really cool. So, okay, Daniel said this guy's a pilot on the Gatun side. Well, you know what? We might be able to use him as well. That would be really cool to have. Yeah, let us know for sure, because we want to get that Atlantic Gatun transit show going. Steve Joyce, what's up, Steve? Good to see you, brother. Hop in haven't seen you in a bit. Lee
Yeah,
Solin,
his
what's the name of
cousin's
the
on
other
tonight.
teams? What's the names of the other teams besides the Kiwanis? Well, we had, of course, the Albert Jets and Howard Eagles were in that Kiwanis division, and then Clayton Cowboys and Cristobal Tigers. At one point, and this has always been a bit of a confusion with people, there was a Fort Davis Raiders for a very short span of time,
2
right around the
seasons.
time I played. I think it was, yeah. So, but they were kind of more or less the same team either way. But that was the Atlantic side, Cristobal. Cristobal was a powerhouse back in the day, guys. We learned that Coach Holland got his gig because um, Dr. Wolf wanted somebody to beat Cristobal. And
That's
Coach Holland
correct.
was visiting, vacation with his wife because she's Panamanian, and he went to the museum there. And next thing you know, these guys are they're offering him a job. They doubled his salary, and he said, "How could I say no? I get to live in Panama, and my wife's going to be happy. I'm doubling my salary, and I get to coach football." So that was pretty cool,
Mhm.
man. But yeah, Marea Roja is going to be really awesome to watch. We're definitely looking forward to that. Rooting hard for them. So like I said, I may do a watch along. I'll post it out there if I do. Stay tuned. Hook up a Pan Canal tug captain. 2 whistles back. Oh, nice. Okay, there you go. See, that's the stuff we need to learn about is that whole dynamic of how everybody coordinated and what they did, and even I'm sure those because I've asked Andrew a couple times, and he's come on the show live from a ship. He's piloting a ship, and I was like, hey, have him blow the horn, but apparently you just can't run around doing that. That it's actually part of the part of the signaling or whatever. So we don't have that much clout on this show to get him to blow the horn on the Panama Canal, but hopefully we will one day. Who knows? Nonetheless. They have to play against somebody else. Oh no, in Panama, no, it's an internal league, Leaf, and we'll learn about it more when these guys come on the air here in just a little bit. But the Kiwanis actually formed a league, and there's a bunch of teams in that league, and that's they play each other, and there's one called the Balboa. Is it what the Dragons, Ricky? Isn't that what they're called?
The Dragons, yeah.
Yeah.
They
So
got the Raiders, they got the Owls,
yeah,
the Kiwani Coats.
we'll
But
find
we'll
out in
talk
just a
about
bit.
that. Yeah, we'll find out when we ask the gentleman all about that.
Yeah, but anyway, let's
Let's
move
move
let's move right
right in.
along here. Yeah, for sure. Get our Bochincha show ready and get some chatter going and get these guys on because they'll be on here in about 10 or 15 minutes. So anyhow, Ricky, we're gonna start you off with your tune here and do your thing, man.
El bochinche, 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 el bochinche.
There you go, dude. You know you love that tune. It just makes him smile every time he hears that tune. Well, is he frozen? Or he's just sitting there looking at him? Ricky, you there? All right, we'll start
I'm
speaking.
here. I can see.
Well, what are you waiting on?
Hi, guys. I hope I'm back. There I am.
Lord have mercy.
Am I on?
Yeah, you're on. You're good, man.
Yes. Well, Willie, the good thing is I did buy a new laptop, so we're getting rid of this
It's
older one.
working great.
Guys, where we go? Elbow change it. Thank you, thank you, thank you, guys. Like always, we like to talk about our relationship between Panama and the Canal Zone. I mean, between Panama and the U.S., aka the Canal Zone. So last week, for the last 8 or 9 weeks, we've been reporting on a few things. One of those, the ports, the security agreements with Panama, about the bases, but we're not going to talk much bases tonight. That's kind of a no reporting too sensitive topic to talk about, and a little bit about the mines and a little bit about immigration. So on the ports, the latest thing on the ports, China has been all over the news opposing the sale of this port. They now have gotten the Hong Kong government to also express dissatisfaction with the sale of this of the ports to the U.S. company.
Right.
Now, my opinion, Willie, on why they're bringing in Hong Kong is because from the day one that this has become an issue, everybody calls C.K. Hutchinson a Hong Kong company,
Yeah.
as in it's a little bit different from a Chinese company.
Well,
Well,
on paper it was, but
on
as we
paper it was,
came to
but
find
today,
out, it really wasn't the case. Well, even
yeah,
back
today's
then it
not.
wasn't.
So right now we're hearing a lot of chatter from the China side and the Hong Kong side that they oppose the sale of these ports. But to me, I think that sale's already gone through, if anything, at least the initial parts. So that's what's going on with the port. Other than that, the audit is still going on, and I'm sure Panama's holding that back. So when they do negotiate, they will be using that audit for their purposes. On the security agreements, one of the things that has been happening there, which we already told you, Delta Force will be training our forces in Panama, as well as the Wing Warriors, which are the Delta Force of the Air Force, will also be training our troops in Panama. Well, the U.S. Embassy just announced that for the next month or so, Southcom will be sending down their four helicopters,
Yep.
plus 2 aircraft. They didn't say which one, but in my opinion, it'll probably be the transport planes and probably more than likely Black Hawks.
Right.
Even though, Willie, there are printing on the Panama News that they're going to be sending Apaches and stuff like that, but I doubt, because they don't need Apaches down there. Part of these helicopters coming down there, airplanes, are for security and humanitarian exercises that are coming up. So that we know that is happening. Also, we just found out in Panama, we have now U.S. naval sail drones been spotted in our docks in Panama.
Yeah.
If you guys don't know what a sail drone is, it's an unmanned surface vehicle which does a lot of the patrolling for the Navy.
Yeah.
Uh,
Think about the
uh,
drones up in the sky that we've been using now for what, 15, 20 years now. You've seen those, they're quite common, and now we're doing the same, on the water. Been doing it,
on
but
the
now it's
water,
becoming
yes.
more prominent.
It's part of a thing called Operation Southern Spear, which the U.S. government is now using 30, 40, 50 of these things to detect and stem the flow of illegal drugs, illegal fishing, and immigration.
Right.
Now, these cell drones are advanced sensors, advanced radar, and communication systems. So, what these drones are going to be doing in Panama are 3 things, right? Drugs, fishing, which is great for the Canal Zone
Yeah.
community since a lot of us love to fish down there. And they've all been complaining that there's no fish. We know why, because the Chinese have been taking all the freaking fish out of Panama. Well, that's coming to an end
Yeah.
with this new drone surveillance down there on both the Pacific and the Caribbean side. And of course, these drones are good for cost efficiency, persistent capabilities, and increased domain awareness. Basically, they'll be like the cops out there in the ocean protecting our coastal lands. Now, remember, protecting our coast is a big part of our credit rating.
Yeah.
The more coast we protect, the higher our credit rating goes. And this is kind of the thing we talked about last week when in 2017 or so around there, they eliminated all the radars and all the things we had to protect our coast. And of course, that's when we started dropping our credit rating. And of course, the Panama Papers also came out during.
Yeah.
But uh, we're quite we quite see why they did that. Obviously, for Panama to get more Chinese loans than Western bank loans. So that's what we have on the.
Now, isn't this a video that Andrew sent on that?
Yeah, let's take a look at those sail drones that we have now in our
Yeah. Check this
territory.
out.
Got here first the autonomous drone here, Fleur, solar panels. It's got a sail. It's got a little propeller. You know, looks like it's steerable, huh? That's steerable. Traffic avoidance. You got your Starlink on here. Radar. It's fully nicely put together, man. Nice. Yeah.
Interesting. That's that, you know, and keep in
That's what
mind,
I
guys,
like
that
to see.
for those that didn't recognize the voice, that's Captain Andrew Eftimides, right? He's a Panama Canal pilot for what? Oh, oops. Thanks for the heads up there, Ricky.
Well, I mean, no one in Panama is reporting about this. These
Okay.
drones down there. Only us, because we always get these inside
All right.
information.
The jury will disregard that last statement, and we will
Yes,
pretend
we
that
will.
was never uttered. But anyway, that's pretty interesting. And listen,
Interesting.
it's very common now. I mean, you know who is renowned for building drones, when not ship drones, but aircraft drones, aviation drones. Do you know what country is one of the leaders in drone manufacturing? It's
Panama,
Turkey.
of
Turkey
course. We
is
know.
is a huge exporter of drones. It's becoming more of it's becoming more common than not. And it's only a matter of time where you start seeing stuff like that out in the water. It's probably been going on for a lot longer than we realize. It's just
Well,
now
yeah,
it's
yeah.
starting to,
These drones have been around for a while.
yeah, even
It's
in the
nothing
water they
new.
have. Certainly,
They've been
certainly.
around
But
for a while.
but anyway, that was interesting.
Yeah. We also had 5 U.S. congressmen visit Panama this week, and that was led by Gary Palmer. I truly don't know where he's from. I think he's Iowa.
Hmm.
Well, they came down to explore trade and new investment opportunities in Panama and what they call a fair and open environment, which is great for them to say that, because remember, we're trying to get our interest rates, our credit rating to raise. So,
Sure.
things like that coming out of those congressmen, it really helps out on that front. They were there. They met with the president. They met with some American companies down there. So it's looking like the United States is finally waking up to reinvesting in Panama, which makes us all very happy.
Yeah. No.
On
Absolutely.
the Yeah, guys, on the immigration front, I got nothing but good news. Panama, trained by Delta, has now, with the help of Colombian army, have now closed down the border. I mean, there's nobody coming through now. That is complete collaboration with the Colombian government now. Because in
Which
my
wasn't
opinion, now
happening
they
that long
respect
ago.
our. It wasn't happening.
No.
I always thought, because I never respected us. But now that we've got, Delta Force training, and our forces are popping out of absolutely everywhere and stopping
Yeah.
these
Indeed.
and stopping this immigration, because the Darien Gap is not an easy place to patrol.
Right.
But our force has been able to go there and stop the immigration. So right on, cheers to those guys,
Yeah.
Sena Front,
Absolutely. Salute, man.
but an
Well done.
incredible job that they've done,
Yeah, right
and
on. I mean, that's listen,
eliminating
because a
that
year ago that thing was like it was a sieve, man. It was like a
months ago.
yeah,
So now
exactly. Not
there's
even a year ago.
actually,
No kidding.
Willie, there's actually a base now in Panama where people come to the base so they can get shipped to their countries, because they know the U.S. is
Right.
paying for those guys to go out there. Apparently, there's 400 immigrants in this one base or plant or wherever they put them for reverse migration, sending themselves back home. So that
Yeah.
is a win-win-win right there for Panama and the U.S.
Yeah. Yeah.
Last but not least, we're going to talk a little bit about the mines. There's a lot going on up to date. We know from last week that the government has told the Quantum, you drop the arbitration and we'll start renegotiating the opening of the mines.
Yeah.
They fired up their electric plant, which comes into perfect timing, because we all know the one plant in Chorrera blew up, right? And the whole country
Yeah.
went dark. So this new plan's going to help that out, but now there's a fight between our two favorite ministers, Navarro, one of our two favorite, but Navarro and Molino, the president. They're on the same page on the mines, but they're definitely not on the same page on this electric plant that blew up. The president wants to fix it and keep it in the grid, and the minister of environment,
Wants to
he
start
wants
over.
to close it. He wants to start and close it down.
Yeah.
But like we were told in our think tank, you just don't buy these plants.
Correct.
It takes years to put it together,
Yeah.
to put one of these plants together. And we also told you that they sold all the copper, $250 million worth
Yeah.
of all this. Now, what happened after all this came to fruition? Demonstrations. They decided to demonstrate today.
Hmm.
Now, the news I'm getting, and I could be wrong, but the news I'm getting is that the participation is not what they thought it was going to be. So apparently, which is, in my opinion, a good thing, is people are starting to understand that, hey, it is a mine, we have a mine, and we need the money. Let's just
Yeah.
do it right. You know, some people have been telling me, Rick, everything will be fine if they just mitigate all the trees they lost. I think that's a great idea. And I believe that's one of the environmental issues they're taking care of. I mean, they're trying to resolve before they get back into negotiation is how are they going to mitigate all these
Right.
trees they lost because they need the rain, right? They need the trains to bring the rain. So, guys, it's really what's going on. And before we just jump out of this the political section of our segment, is I gotta say I the news to me is not really painting what we see, Willie. We do a lot of research on these topics, and to us we see it as a win-win all over the place. But if you read the news, it sounds like it's like the worst thing in the world's happening in Panama. And we're seeing the bridge going a lot faster. We're seeing the railroad to Cherokee, new studies that's going on. In my opinion, the port sale is going to get Panama all their money back that they haven't gotten, especially in the last 3 years. They haven't been paid but zero from the ports. So a lot of this stuff I just see as win-win. Now the basis I don't want to touch right now. It's a little bit too of a sensitive topic, so we'll just not mention that tonight. But anyway, guys, so that's what's going on with the political part of our bochinche. Now, moving on, we're going to get into a little bit of sports before we get into our birthdays. On the sports world, well, does anybody have any questions with what we just discussed? I mean, I am going kind of fast, and I want to make sure that we have time to go over some of this stuff. Any of you guys out there want to chime in and ask anything, we'll be glad to answer any questions you might have on what is going on in the political side. But if you don't have any, we can move in right into sports. In the NBA, as you guys know, Castleton, our Zonian basketball players, played in Toronto. In the Major League Baseball, another Zonian, Lawrence, a pitcher, is pitching for Pittsburgh. They're in spring training right now. On the NFL front, we had that kid out of Ohio State. I forgot his name, but he's Panamanian. He was seen at the combine, so he'll be hopefully drafted. He was one of the better cornerbacks for Ohio, so we'll should be having him on. We've probably seen him playing in the NFL. And of course, Willie already mentioned the spectacular win of Panama soccer last night, beating the U.S. To get into the finals. I mean, this made world news. After they scored and they hugged that guy from France, it was just
That
a
was
beautiful
amazing.
moment that the whole world has enjoyed. Now,
Hey, can you hear me?
I watched
Okay.
the game. I watched the game, and I tell you, Willie, those guys, they left everything on the line, heart and soul on that game. And this brings me to the guys we're going to be interviewing tonight. These Kiwani coats, they did the same thing. They played like that every Saturday. They would come into the Canal Zone and they would leave their heart and soul on the playing field because it
Yeah.
was more instead of a football game, it was like a United States against or Canal Zone against Panama. So
Oh, it
last
most
night
definitely was.
reminded me of these guys that are going to be on tonight, the true DNA of football in Panama. And I can't wait to get these guys on and start chit-chatting with them, Willie.
Yeah, no, it's going to
So,
be
Willie,
exciting. I mean, these guys, you know, they came into football, and we were talking about it the other night, and how they didn't have the same football experience that we had. Even when you're 5 and 6 years old playing out in the street in the playground, you're playing football, and so that was a bit of a challenge. But I mean, the results that they had on the field certainly would never have told you that, because I mean these guys picked up the game quick, and they were a really
Yeah.
really
So we're going
solid
to
team.
find
They
out
were.
about that.
Oh yeah, I mean that was always our biggest game was against the Kiwani, so I'm excited to talk to these guys and learn about that. But let's move along quickly because we are running a little long, and we want to obviously respect everybody's time, and get those birthdays. Or unless have you got anything else on the sports end of it, things?
No, we're good. We're good.
Okay,
That
cool.
bochincha was going to be short.
Yeah, not a lot of birthdays
Next
this
week's
this
bochincha
week
is going to be a
anyway,
lot
but
longer.
yes, it will. It'll be, of course, Ricky will be in hog heaven next week.
No,
But
next week.
yeah, so let's just celebrate a couple of birthdays real quick, and then we'll get these folks on because we got a lot of people excited to hear, about life on the other side of the field. When you were a Kiwanis Colts, and we've always learned about the Balboa Rams and their history. So we're gonna get
And
the
the
history of
Auburn
our biggest
Jets and
rival out there, and
Cristobal.
yeah,
Yeah.
of course. So
All
anyway,
right.
go ahead with
Let's
your birthdays, man.
Well, guys, you guys know per contractual agreement, we always start with the 81s. Carla Craig, happy birthday, Carla. Regina Martinez, a big name in the Canal Zone. Speaking of football, her father was a Red Machine football coach, but he
Oh,
was actually a Bulldogs coach when I played because he was a coach on my team when
ah,
I played. So
okay.
happy birthday, Regina Martinez. We love you very much. And Edna Ramos, happy birthday to you three 81ers that are celebrating this week. But for the rest of the Canal Zone community, happy birthday to the beautiful Mary Snavely. She was a Balboa girl, lived out there in Gavilan. Patrick McQuarrie, happy birthday, Patrick.
Class of
The
'86.
great Joe Kane. Joe, wasn't Joe Kane's father a teacher, Willie, at
No,
Balboa
no.
High School?
Joe Kane was the principal, not the principal. I'm sorry, the librarian at the Canal Zone College,
Oh,
and
that's what he was. That's right.
so his son, my classmate Devin Kane, when we were at St. Mary's, well, his wife Devin's mom was the principal there, and I always remember this during St. Patty's Day. He would come in
Yeah.
because, of course, Kane. That's certainly an Irish name, and he
Irish
could
name, yeah.
could throw out that Irish accent like nobody's business, and he'd walk in with the top hat and the big cane, obviously Mr. Kane, and he's a really tall guy, um, and uh, and he would do this whole Irish presentation. It was really cool. It was just a really cool memory. So when Devin threw his name out the other day on Facebook, hey, happy birthday, Dad, I was like, oh man, I brought back some St. Mary's memories. Yeah, very
Right,
cool.
Mr. Joe Kane. Great, cool. The beautiful Allegra Woodruff, the daughter of our music professor, Mr. Woodruff,
Hmm.
Judy Stewart. This is a special happy birthday. Judy today is 96 years old. So
Yep.
to everybody out
Happy
there, let's
birthday.
just toast a special happy birthday
Salute,
to
Judy
Miss
Stewart,
Judy
96.
Stewart.
Congrats. Hmm. That's
Oh,
wonderful.
Judy. Right on, Judy. And hope you live a whole bunch more.
Right on.
Excuse me, guys. Susan Rasmussen, the beautiful Susan Rasmussen. The
Yep.
very smart, I should say. She graduated early, right? She was
Yep,
supposed to
she did.
graduate with you. She graduated, and you enrolled.
Yeah,
She graduated in the early
she
85.
did. She did.
From the great coffee family, Doug Coffee. Happy
Yeah, happy
birthday.
birthday, Doug.
Yep. Another football player from the Albrook Jets, Charlie Hurst,
Yep.
quarterback. Happy birthday,
Yep.
Charlie. Class of
Absolutely.
80, Robert Weldon. Very, very, very well known Zonian. You could always catch him at the reunion. He's got that cooler, that motorized cooler, and he drives around the reunion in his little cooler.
Yes,
Uh,
exactly.
Roy, Roy Watson out of Cristobal High School. We got a few Cristobal High School guys tonight. Roy
Yeah.
Watson, happy birthday. David Loringer, also out of Cristobal, happy birthday. And Jerry Farrell, all three Cristobal High Schools.
Look at that. How about that?
Derek, the great friend of everybody in the zone. Derek Hatchett out of Los
Yeah.
Rios. Happy birthday, Derek. And everybody loves Juan Thompson. Happy birthday,
Yes.
Juan. And last but not least, for me, Jessica Cromer. Happy birthday, Jessica.
Yes, indeed. And then one more happy birthday. This is a heavenly birthday. Happy heavenly birthday to Mr. Ralph Furlong, a great, great friend, a great guy. Always had an awesome smile on his face, just always a happy guy. And so we celebrate you, Ralph. Happy birthday up there in heaven. Say hello to my mom. But as usual, guys, anybody that we didn't cover, we don't mean to. Happy birthday to all, like we have here on the screen for sure. But we'll go ahead and do our happy birthday murga, and then we're gonna bring these guys on, our friends from the Kiwani Colts. So, let's. Go, guys. So anyhow, guys, we've got a couple of guests on and a couple others that are going to be popping into the screen here any moment now. But welcome to Happy Hour at the Balboa Yacht Club. We've got three amazing guests from way back in the day, when they weren't such amazing guests, when they were on the other side of the field and we were playing on the Balboa Rams. But great competitors. They gave us some awesome football in the early to mid to late 80s, and so I'm really excited. Actually, no, late to late 70s and early 80s is what it was. But anyhow, excited to have Coach Guy Nacchio, Carlos Chicho de la Guardia, and Robert Joyce joining us from the Kiwanis Coast. Guys, welcome to the show, guys.
Right on, guys.
Hello, good evening.
Yes,
Saludos,
yes.
Willie and Ricky.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank
Chicho
you.
and
Thank
Coach
you, guys.
Nakio.
All right, right on. Absolutely. Yeah, great to have you guys on. We've been wanting to have different teams on. We obviously being Balboa Rams, and things seem to be more Balboa centric than anything else, which was kind of the zone anyway. I mean, it's the kind of capital of the zone was Balboa, so it kind of made sense. But we've had some Albrook Jets on. We're trying to get some Atlantic people on with Cristobal. But then, of course, you can't argue that our biggest rival was the Kiwanis Colts. You guys weren't part of the original teams in the league, but you joined a few years after, and then bit of a slow start. But once you guys got in gear, forget about it. You guys were by far our toughest rival. We certainly got up for those games. So um, I'm glad to have you guys on now as just former combatants out there and former opponents. But nonetheless, thanks for joining us. I'm going to start with you, Guy, because you have a history in the Canal Zone. You actually went to BHS and have been involved in sports teams like most of your adult life. Give us some of the early history that you know of football in the zone, and of course your history as well.
Well, actually, yeah, I graduated from Balboa High School in '72, and I remember at the time I also wanted to play Little League football at the time, but the weights were very low, so I couldn't make the team. But I actually played a lot of baseball, had a lot of good friendships. I played with Flashley's. I played on a team called Pumas,
Okay.
and also played in the veteran VFW baseball, American Legion baseball. And I had a lot of good friends, players that went on to be good players. And I think people, I don't remember Ray Moss, Steve Patch, I'm trying to remember Eddie Davis. All these guys, we played for the high school team.
Right.
So it was a lot of fun. Then when I came back to Panama in '78, actually during the summers before that, '76, '77, I would help with programs, the Pee Wee. They started the Pee Wee program and the mini Pee Wees, and I was helping them. So when I came back in '78, they said, "Hey, let's start the football again to try to be more competitive." And we started then. I worked with the big team in the Kiwanis. Like you say, it was tremendous. The kids were very excited. It was the only team in Panama, so we get a full concentration of kids that were really motivated, and that
Right.
just was very easy to get them to work hard and to concentrate to do things right. Uh, like you say, Balboa and Cristobal, those were games that were rival games. I mean, the
Right.
stands just got full. It was so exciting. Friday night was very special then. Maybe it is now, but I think those days you can't repeat those days again.
No,
And
you can't.
it was
No.
really a period of transition too, because the Canal Zone was going through a period, and people were leaving and moving out. So there's a lot of good memories that were developed during that time, and just to be with all these young athletes and the relationships there were, and just to see that good sportsmanship and kids develop, and years later, you see the effect. I mean, back
Right.
then, if you saw football outside Balboa Stadium at that time, it was too much. Now you walk in every neighborhood. There's women's flag football now. They're federation level. They have open division now, and kids they have teams going to the states. I mean, you never seen that, and I think that's what all of us that participated, whether players or football, that's the legacy you leave. When you see
Right.
the program just continue to grow, those relationships grow, and that is very satisfying.
No, no kidding. And
That is.
I've said this several times, and I kind of feel like I've misspoken now, where I've said that the Canal Zone left this great legacy for Panama, but the truth is, that legacy wouldn't have gone to Panama if it wasn't for the Kiwanis coming in and establishing a really strong team that everybody in the country followed, and has now carried over to what we have today. And as you can see, we have a fourth guest that has joined us. Jason Boyd is joining us, another BHS graduate and a a big time sports person in Panama. This guy's on the TV. He's everywhere out there. He is Mr. Panama Sports. He's Instagram and stuff as well. So, Stacy, give us your version of what football is now, and then we'll go over to Robert and Chico to go back to the Kiwanis days. But what's Panama's football like now, uh, based on what Guy just said and how that legacy is carried on?
Well, first of all, I want to thank you guys for the invite. Ricky Royo, Will, Guy Naku, that I known for a while. Guy, and we're like baseball people, right, Guy? And then I got Robert Joyce, who is a good friend from the U, right? The
Yep.
King. Oh, anyways, yeah. Talking about football in Panama, Kiwanis basically took over when the Southern Command left. Fortunately for football in Panama, they took over the league, and then and they expanded to the private schools, and nowadays it's it used to be like a gringo like league, gringo like yeyecito league, like
Right.
higher league, and it's like expanded. It's more massive now. It's like basically all types of people play football in Panama, play flag football and play tackle football. Obviously, there's a Panama Major Football League, which is like 18 and over. It's like
Okay.
it's basically after varsity. Because you got
Sure.
the lightweight and heavyweight divisions; those disappear. No, nowadays is like there's like a micro division,
Yeah.
a mini division, and then you got the juvenile, which is kind of like a junior varsity, and then you got the varsity division, and then after that you got the Panama Major Football League, which is like basically guys in their 20s and 30s, and
Okay.
a couple older guys that still play tackle football. They're still they're still living the dream.
Which we would have all
Right.
done had we stayed in Panama. We would have definitely played on that
Well,
league.
there was
Now,
occasions where. Sorry, go ahead, Ricky.
go ahead. One of the things that I did want to ask you guys is, what age are they starting to play football now in Panama? Because I saw the like you said, the micro meanies. Those
Yeah,
kids look 6 years old.
yeah,
What is that age?
seven. They're around 6, 7, 8 years
Hmm.
old, more or less. And sometimes I think that for tackle football, I don't know, Guy and Robert, what they think, but I think sometimes that's a little young for the tackle. For tackling. I've seen them because my kid, my
Hmm.
older kid went through that stage of 6 and 7 year olds, and he was all right because he was always like the mean kid, but but the rest of the kids are
Oh, they don't hit each other too hard. They got all the
no.
pads on, and they don't they
Yeah.
don't run very
No,
fast.
but they, some kids do shy away from tackle, and
Yeah.
then they.
Yeah.
So I think maybe the flag football is more, more like, I don't know. I guess it's more friendly for kids that age because
Yeah.
most kids are not,
Correct.
And you
they're
learn to understand the game.
yeah, exactly.
Same here in the U.S. Same here in the U.S. Football, it's really for like the more advanced athletes, and then flag football is for the kids that just are not that level but still want to play ball. So it's
Yeah.
just very similar.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And going you talk about now how you have football out on the streets everywhere and in the backyards and probably in a lot of the schoolyards and stuff. And the other night when we were on doing some show prep, we started talking about that. And so Chicho, you started playing football. What was your first exposure to football? Because that was an interesting story. I always looked at SCN as a TV network for the Americans. And not that you could block a signal. I mean, it's it's out in the sky. It's a TV signal. But what was your exposure to football, and how did you get started?
Well, thank you guys for having me and for putting this
Volume.
together. Is a great idea. Can you hear me?
Yes,
Yes.
absolutely.
Okay. And welcome to all of you guys. Good to see you, Guy, again, and Robert and JC. Well, for some reason, I've always been exposed to SCN, Canal Ocho.
Uh-huh.
So when I was little, I wouldn't miss um, the Roses parade on
Hmm.
New Year's Eve. I would miss some really good, Major League Baseball games, and I would definitely not miss NFL. Um, and since I was little, I started playing soccer. I became a high performance athlete when I was like 9 years old, 10 years old, just because I went to St. Augustine, Catholic school, and the priests, were very intense when it came to competing against, other schools, especially soccer. The same way as Javier, for example, was very competitive in basketball
Right.
and La Salle in basketball, et cetera, et cetera. So that's how I was exposed to the sport. I knew the rules. I bought magazines, and I also wanted to learn my English, because the school that I attended, English wasn't very good. Yes,
Okay.
we know grammar and all that, but pronunciation is something that I was always frustrated,
Sure.
and I wanted to improve, my language.
Sure. Especially watching SCN, you could kind of compare yourself to what you're hearing on TV and whatnot. And now it's time for you to actually play football. How did that come about? How did you join the Kiwanis, or how did the Kiwanis come and find you? Because they've certainly found a gem from all the stats.
Well, that's an interesting question. I remember I was at a family gathering. A cousin of mine told me, "Hey, listen, I know some guys that work with me, and they are pretty much involved in the Canal Zone Junior League. Perhaps since you're a good athlete, you may want to go to the tryouts." And he gave me a phone number, and it was Lou Mastelari's telephone number.
Yep.
So I called him, and he gave me the guidelines. Just show up, shorts, cleats, and I show up to that empty field that we used to practice at. It was in the middle of the Marbella neighborhood,
Yeah.
and it
Okay.
was basically, like I said, an empty lot. That as we practiced, we started like mowing the lawn. Well,
Right.
not even the lawn. It was like weed.
Right. Right. Now
And
Marbella was what?
Weed
Was
and
that near
rock.
Paitilla?
Yeah.
yes, it's right behind the Clinica Paitilla
Okay.
hospital. Yeah,
Gotcha.
and
Perfect.
so it was quite an experience. At that time, that was a dead end road, and it was very rustic.
Hmm.
Practices were very very rustic. I remember sharing with you guys at our prep that at some point, we there were so many kids, turned out, and I remember just little by little they were cutting other
Hmm.
players, and it was kind of sad, to see, because I met a lot of friends there,
Of course.
but half of them, they were caught, and
Yes.
so that's how I was exposed. 1976. I used to go to games with guys that lived in my neighborhood that played for Kaiwanis heavyweight, and that's
Okay.
how I got really excited about becoming a player.
Sure, sure. And then of course you started playing at 76 you were playing on the lightweight team. How was that experience, and getting onto a team now and learning the actual game with the rules and the different plays and the holes and all those things. What was that like?
Well, I did not start playing until 1978.
Oh,
I
okay.
went 76 and 77. I used to go to games.
You watch the games. Gotcha.
Yes,
Got
I would go to the stadiums, and I used to just and I followed the heavyweight. But
Sure.
1977, I'm sorry, 78. I um, um, I attended. I went to the tryouts, and I made it. I made the team, and they played me as a safety because I
Okay.
was really fast. I believe I was one of the fastest, if not the fastest. I don't remember, but I was pretty much a fast kid. and I play safety with. I remember the other guy next to me was Jorge Rosania, and
Good.
every now and then I would play a flanker, on the offense. But my experience was my first impression was like, wow, I mean, I used to play for the national team, Panamanian, but it wasn't sophisticated at
Right.
that time. It wasn't as sophisticated as what I experienced with
Sure.
Kiwanis. Really nice uniforms, brand new helmets. And a bus that would take us to the stadium. The McDonald's after the
Yeah.
matches. It's quite an experience.
No, absolutely. It sounded like was.
I got a question for him, if that's okay.
Yeah, of course.
Sure. Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
I grew up basically in the '80s, and Chicho, you were like a legend. You used to play football and everything in the street, and back in the city, and we used to get stories about Chicho de la Guardia playing for Kiwanis and being this fast guy, and we were younger, obviously. You were a little older, and then we used to hear like stories that you were gonna get, you were offered like by Notre Dame or something like that. So we were like, I don't know if it's urban legend or the real McCoy, but I guess we can ask you today if you got offered by Notre Dame to play football at some point.
Echa el cuento, Chicho.
That's interesting. That's a really good question because
Hey, Chicho, you met you knew another very fast guy,
Steve
huh?
was Steve Gayer,
No, in your college days.
another fast guy.
No,
Maybe you can remind me if I. Oh, Barry Sanders.
Barry Sanders. There you
Very
go.
nice.
Well,
Wow.
that's a good question. Even my dad told me. I remember when I left. Well, I have to share with you guys from the beginning how I was exposed to the U.S. and the possibility of playing college, or getting a scholarship. I remember 1982. I had just turned 15th, and I could not play any more heavyweight. I came back home from school, and my mom told me, "Hey, Coach Nakio gave us a call today. He said that he needs to talk to you. There's a very good possibility that you guys are going to play in the U.S. and they want you on the team, so you can get some exposure. Some scouts can watch you and all that." I was so excited because I really missed the fellowship. The that the little league, the Canal Zone little league, football league, uh, was like, or
Or-
gave me
Mhm.
in my life, my youth. So yes, we went to the U.S., to Boca Raton and Hollywood Hills, and we played very well. We basically, I could say that the first game, we ran over them, and then we played another team that it was better prepared, and but we beat him. But I didn't really get any communication from a scout. The guy who really called me and told me once, "Hey, listen, I would like to take you to see some colleges," was Ted Joyce,
Okay.
senior Ted Joyce. The father. He was
He was our coach.
Yeah,
yeah,
sure
our
was.
coach in
He
the
was the
in the
coach.
in the, in the lightweight league, and he at that time he had been transferred to Enid, Oklahoma, at an Air Force base called Vance. So he said, "Listen, take some time, come and live with me, and I'll take you to see some schools." So before I went to Oklahoma, I stopped at Tampa, University of Southern Florida.
Yeah.
I also went to UT in Austin, Texas, and then I ended up going to Norman, Oklahoma, OU, and Oklahoma
Nice.
State. At that time, the coach at Oklahoma State was um, uh, Coach Jones. Oh, I forgot his first name. Um, Jim Johnson.
Oh, Jimmy Johnson.
Jimmy Johnson. Jimmy
Yes.
Johnson. Before he
Ended up
went
coaching the
to
Dallas
coach the
Cowboys eventually.
Hurricanes.
Yeah.
And so I saw Barry Switzer, I saw Jimmy Johnson, and I did have accuracy. I did have the leg to score some field goals, from the 35,
Hmm.
from the 30-yard line, but
Sure.
I didn't have the strength that other kickers had. So
Okay.
the ones who really show interest on me was Oklahoma State, and they said, well, go through the process of enrollment and come see me. So it took me a year. I had to go through not only training but also getting ready for my TOEFL, English as a second language.
Of course.
And when I was enrolled, then I became a red shirt, and I was there with two other kickers that were very strong, much stronger than me, but I was more accurate. So
Okay.
I was on the team at that time with Thurman Thomas, Barry Sanders.
Nice.
Never played,
Right
but I was
on.
on the team.
Still, that's a heck of a pair of teammates to have.
Yeah.
It was a good experience, and but they also had a soccer team, and I decided to stay with soccer because it was less training. Uh, Football is very intense. I had to do the same things, everybody on the team would do, and so I ended up, just I stopped playing on the football team, and I ended up playing soccer. So that's the story.
Oh, hey, you got to play
It's a
some
good
football in the
story.
United States. Absolutely. And you played with some, I mean, some high caliber players, and it is. I mean, you're a lot of people that went to that next level, you know, wouldn't have gone to an Oklahoma State or an Oklahoma or that type of schools. You're talking about, McNeese State or I mean, a much smaller school. So that's
I
that
played
in
in the
itself.
States, but College of Marin, much
Exactly, that's my
smaller as
point.
well.
Absolutely. So
Yeah.
it just
Yeah.
to get to that level that in itself is an achievement. But obviously
That was a
in
huge
Panama with the
achievement.
Kiwanis, you had a stellar career, and you absolutely were somebody that that we certainly practiced to look out for, and obviously wasn't enough. But and Robert, now when did you start playing with the Kiwanis?
Along with Chicho,
Same time.
78, 79, 80, and 81. I believe 80 and 81 was with Coach Guy Nacchio.
Hmm.
And 78, it was Joey Nacchio, actually, Guy's brother. And actually, also 79, Chicho, that was the year that Coach Joyce, Ted Joyce, joined the coaching team along with oh god, I can't remember the other. I believe the other two folks were from I believe Clayton or Albrook. They
Okay.
were all from the zone.
Interesting, interesting. And
So
that on the picture there, you see that's Coach Joyce there on the left, looking at
correct,
the camera.
with the great shorts.
Yes, with the professional coaching outfit.
Yep, there you go. That was him. No relation to me.
Right.
But yeah, he really he taught me a lot. I didn't think I could play, middle linebacker, outside linebacker, and he said, "Yes, you can." And there we go. I played linebacker that year.
Nice. Very
Robert,
good.
both your older brothers were also linebackers, so you were just following in your brother's footsteps because I played with your brothers, and they were both
Correct.
phenomenal linebackers.
Correct. Oh, thank you. Yeah, great. Yeah, and that was actually probably my initial exposure to football was my brother Albert playing and my brother
Hmm.
Richard playing. And
Correct.
I went to all the games, and I just like Chicho, I watched all the games on SEN. And yeah, once it came time, it was great to become Kiwanis Colts and play with you guys. I always have said the same thing. And Chicho can also second the motion. You guys were never the enemy. You guys were always one of our best rivals, and those were one of the best games that we ever had against the Balboa Rams.
I
Yes.
agree
Oh no, I
100% with
yeah,
that
I
because
agree.
we got up for those games. You certainly it was a challenge, all right, and
Hmm.
football is a contact sport. You're gonna hit somebody, and there is gonna be that moment of, you know,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
you
yeah.
know, at the end of the game, happy or disappointed, you shook hands, and it really was a genuine, hey, good game, right? You know, good
Oh,
luck
like
to you
yeah,
guys. It really was.
and like Guy said, after the games, they would all meet up at the McDonald's on Calle 50,
Yes.
and a lot of us Balborans would go to that McDonald's and hang out with you guys. So it
Yep,
was a brotherhood, like it is today.
Yeah,
that's
no,
right.
indeed. I
Very
believe it
important.
was.
Very
Yeah.
important. Yep.
And Carlos Coas is reminding us that it was Coach Larson was one of those coaches you were mentioning there. Uh,
Yes, correct. I
Right.
think that Coach Larson is also in the picture, probably next to Coach Joyce. I'm not quite sure, but it kind of
okay.
looks like him as well. Yeah.
Interesting.
No,
Good
that's
memory there.
Lou. That's Lou Mastillari
Yeah.
next to
Oh,
Larson.
yeah. Lou
Okay.
would always wear his Porsche Carrera sunglasses.
Okay.
And
That's
the
Lou.
Oh,
guy
those
who,
were popular in the '80s, early '80s.
Yeah,
yeah,
that's Lou. You're correct, Chicho.
No, and it was and now so that's that field in Marbella, right, that you're talking about. And
yeah.
if you see in the distance, you see Ancon Hill there. So that's on the other, obviously we're on the other side of that. Um, how far is that then from Paitea Hospital, for example, so people can kind of understand where it was?
Right next to it. Right next to
Okay, really?
the lot. Yeah, it was about a couple of yards, about 50 yards away.
Okay, okay. Well, at least if you had an injury, you get medical care
Yeah,
pretty quick.
right there. Hey, and we had a couple of those. Let me tell you, I still remember one time. Oh, somebody got with the cleats on and everything. One guy got a big clavo caught up in
Oof.
man. That was really woof.
No,
And yeah, they took him right next door and got him.
no.
Or
My worst.
we could
Dale.
also go swimming in the Matasnillo River. You know,
Yeah,
Okay.
it's what divided the hospital from
yeah.
the field.
Okay, that kept you guys away from their parking lot. That's what that was. No, I was going to say my worst injury on Rams, and you guys will know who I'm talking about. Johnny Hearn, who was a great
Yeah.
athlete who traveled with you guys to play in the states. But him and I decided to switch face masks during the season. So he took both helmets home and he switched them up, and he brought it back the next day, and I put it on. Well, he didn't tell me that he lost one of the screws up here on the top. You know, he had the two screws up here, and so he put a wood screw on. And if you know anything about wood screws, they're pointed. So of course I'm playing defense and I go to make a tackle and I get hit. And next thing you know, I think I'm sweating and they're like, "Hey, Benninghoff, you okay?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm fine." And oh shit! Next thing you know, there's blood coming down and everything. The screw went right into my head, man. And his dad, Coach Hearns, like he takes the helmet and he goes, "What the hell is this?" I was like, Johnny did it, man. So I don't know what happened to him after that, but that was the extent of my injury was getting a screw in the head. But I did my first exposure to the Balboa Rams was at 10 years old, going to watch my brother play. Kind of like most of you guys have said, you go and you watch a sibling or whatever. And I was watching him at practice there at the train station, and I climb up on one of the goalposts, and I'm hanging on it. And they had the old soccer post below it, but the crossbar for football was higher than the crossbar for soccer. So they had these hanging on there, these metal bars, and of course that rope had probably been on there for years. And I'm hanging on that thing, and next thing you know, it breaks, and I land on the ground, and this thing hits me in the head, and now again blood everywhere. That
Ooh.
one was more serious. I had to get they had to call an ambulance and take me to the hospital, but I earned a jersey for that. I ended up being the Rams mascot, and I would run out after kickoffs and grab the tee and come back and everything. And then next year I was on the team. But yeah, that's my earliest memories. I didn't have really memories of the Kiwanis then, but sure as hell, as soon as I made the team the next year, even though I was on the bench, we knew who the Kiwanis were. We were ready for the Kiwanis. You practiced for the Kiwanis, and it just became an amazing, amazing experience.
Yeah, yeah.
You know,
Even the week before we play the Kiwanis, our coaches
without a
would always
doubt.
remind us to not to focus on the team that we were going to play and not think about the Kiwanis on the following week.
Right.
But that's kind of the way it was. The Kiwanis when you came up on our schedule, we would practice 2-3 weeks before we played you.
Yeah. It was hard not to
Uh,
focus on it no matter what.
Mm-hmm.
no matter what. Like we
So
had Clayton and
you
all us,
guys,
and then Kiwanis. We
yeah,
would
you guys
practice
went
for
through the
Kiwanis.
same things we did,
Yeah.
which the coach. Coach Guy would always say, focus on the next team. Don't think about what's coming up, around the horizon, which was the Balboa Rams. We got a game with the Clayton Cowboys this Friday, and yeah, it's tough because we knew how competitive you guys were.
Right. Well, we know how we got up for that game, and you knew that the practice next week was going to be intense, and be
Yeah,
ready for
Intense.
it because it was going to be, I mean, all the way through. Even the walkthrough on Friday was going to be intense. Even that, there was a little extra bark because it's Kiwanis tomorrow, and
Yeah, and when you played the Kiwanis, it was all about pageantry. We had our bands would show up, our marching bands would show up. Both sides of the stadiums would be
it was a
completely
big deal.
packed.
yeah,
It
yeah.
was a big deal playing the Kiwani coats back in our
Sure
days.
was. No, for sure. Now, JC, what's your memory of and when did you get into the sports world where you were starting to cover these things, both football obviously here in the states and then in Panama, and then what is your memory of what the Kiwanis and that organization like now compared to back in the day?
Well, for me, I mean, I think back in the day, it was kind of like a rivalry between Panamanians and Zonians. You know, it's like Kiwanis and Rams. It's like the best football team that the Canal Zone had was Balboa Rams, and then Kiwani Colts is like kind of like the national Panamanian team. So it was like a Panama, los panameños contra los gringos. You know, that sort
Claro.
of thing. And so there was like a big time rivalry. And now just thinking about it, I never thought about it, but like the Kiwani Colts, even though the Colts are white and blue, they used to wear the Steeler colors. And then the Rams, who are obviously they wear they used to wear the white and the blue back in the real old days, and
Sure.
then they switched to the yellow and the blue. They were kind of like the Balboa Rams had the Cowboys jersey. I don't know if you ever thought about that, but it's like the '70s. The '70s, it was Cowboys and Steelers. Everybody wanted to
Yeah.
be Terry Bradshaw and Roger Staubach, right?
Yeah.
And then you
It
got
very
Franco
much mimics it
Harris,
now. You're right.
right? You got Franco Harris, and then you got Mean Joe Green. Everybody wanted the Mean Joe Green face mask. Am I right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah,
yes, that is correct.
yeah.
No, you ain't
So
kidding.
so back in the day, it was like I don't know. It was sometimes it's a little difficult to compare eras because basically that's kind of like the golden era of football in Panama. Nowadays it's very organized but like basically like the private schools are like a step ahead of Kiwani Colts. It's like La
Okay.
Academia, the La Academia and Brother, which are like the Brother Raiders and the Academia Owls. They're kind of like the Rams and the Colts of the old days. And it's
Hmm.
because
Okay.
they got the better coaches, and they got they organize the program somewhat. Guy could tell you a lot about that, but basically they get the kids that are like really excited. In other schools, you have trouble getting kids. When you go out in a tryout, maybe you got maybe 15, 20 kids for a tryout. Basically that's it. So Kiwanis in a sense. Maintain somewhat the tradition, and thank God, because football, I think between what the kids play, the flag football, and then what we air on TV, because the NFL is like king, not only in the states, but football wise down here in Panama also. Everybody
Right.
everybody watches the Super Bowl. Everybody has a team. I have a new podcast that I came up with this year. It's called Fanático Sufrido, and I did it on the NFL. It's basically
I've seen that.
you've seen it.
Yes.
And I invite football fans from different teams, and I basically I kind of get under their skin somehow, and I mock them a little bit about the how bad their team has been. Like
Right.
Redskins and Jets and the
And
Buffalo Bills,
Dolphins
the
and the
Dolphins,
Dolphins. Yeah.
Cowboys and
the Dolphins. They haven't
of
won in
course.
50 years, that sort of thing.
Right.
Guys, yeah, and but yeah, no, for me it's been like I was I basically I went to school in Miami. I worked in Miami, and then I came back to Panama thinking that I wanted to, if I ever wanted to get married and have a family, I wanted them to be here in Panama. And then, as you guys know, Panama's a paradise, and we have so many things that we don't have in the states. You have a beach house, maybe you have I don't know. In some cases, you're like a member of the Club Union. There's a lot of different things that you might not have in the states. So when I
Sure.
came, so I wanted to come back And fortunately for me, because after I came back, only like 2 years after my dad passed away. So I was glad that I came back because, at least I got to spend, because
Sure.
when you're away, you're a man now. So you're on your own and you kind of like drift away a little bit from dad or from your family. And so I got a chance to come back. At least I got, he didn't get to see me, the whole, growth professionally, he basically saw me at the beginning and but I know he's probably pretty proud of me. And
I
I
would
got
think
into
so.
sports. I got a tip that there was like this spot open for Cableonda, which is basically the cable operator here in Panama, and basically they had a channel that was going to replace SCN, and then
Okay.
SCN, but basically was American sports, NBA, NFL, and Major League Baseball. So, and those, like most of us that went to the Canal Zone, that Balboa High School and everything. For me, the basically the whole sports culture comes from the zone.
Right.
In school they we had our seasons, just like there's seasons in the states. We had football season, baseball season, basketball season, soccer season. People used to wrestle. So basically we gym was like actually fun. It was
Right.
back in the day. If you went to Diablo Elementary, you had those wooden and
Mm-hmm.
schools. And then I remember that Bobby Prescott, who I later found out that he got to the major leagues, was actually my PE coach. I don't know if you guys remember him.
Oh.
Uh,
I didn't have him. I went to Balboa Elementary and then St. Mary's, but
okay, so you were like with the school of fairies.
yes,
No,
I
I'm
always
kidding.
laugh about that because I would listen while I was at
I'm
Balboa
kidding. I'm
Elementary
kidding. I'm kidding. I'm
first,
kidding.
and
Hey,
I lived in Amador
I
Road, and
went to
so
St. Mary's too.
well,
Yeah.
Me too. I went to St. Mary's.
listen,
No,
we
that
all did, man, and
was this.
I would be on the school bus going home from Balboa Elementary and drive by and ferry St. Mary's out the
Yeah,
window, and then the next
exactly.
year I'm going to school. I'm like, ay, ya la vida, man. Now here they got to hear that from these people now.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
I
Yeah.
got it from both ends, man. I feel
Yeah,
for
but
those
all
guys.
the best football players were out of St. Mary's. All the fastest athletes were out of St. Mary's.
There was a little bullying from Balboa people, right? All the time,
It
right?
was,
Yeah,
All the
yeah.
Because
We
time.
always got bullied, but
All
we
the
beat
time.
them
we
in
were more like
sports.
I don't know, I guess like a non,
it was because we had to wear
it
uniforms. I
was
think
it
that
was
was
more
it,
of the
man.
We had to wear
bully type,
uniforms,
Yeah.
but
yeah, and then
White
whenever
and
we
uh,
would
blue.
compete, we
Yeah,
didn't have the cool uniforms.
no.
The we had to wear like our gym outfits to go compete in
It was because I
football
remember
and
track and
track.
field. We had to wear the St. Mary's T-shirts when these guys had
Yeah,
the
yeah,
cool
we would beat them.
track
We would beat
outfit. Yeah,
everybody.
exactly. We beat them with our little T-shirts and stuff. But anyway, so back to the Kiwani. So, Guy, you've been involved obviously since the early years. Not when it first started, but soon thereafter. And then, of course, you've seen the evolution of to where it is today. What do you think was the biggest change, other than of course it was all Panama teams now, and but especially that transition time, because at one point it was what, two teams from Balboa? Didn't they split the Rams into two teams or something?
Yeah, at one point when they didn't have enough, I think military teams or something, they had to split the teams of Balboa, and that's where you started to see. I noticed a question here on your chart here. Somebody was asking how old were the Kiwanis were they supposed to play when
Oh
uh,
yes.
they weren't, which is an interesting question because there was always those issues of weight and age and who's cheating, who's not. But to be honest with you, with the Kiwanis, we never had that problem. We had so many kids. Like
Right.
Chico was saying, I tell you, the practices when we opened up, the word got around, and it was the thing to be was on the Kiwanis court. The biggest
Sure.
thing a kid could get was a yellow and gold jersey and be part of the team. And so we had a cut. We didn't have reason to. And I was one that was a very stickler. I used to tell my players, look, because I said, no excuse. I don't want to hear that the referees are against it because that was the other thing. Oh, the
Right.
referees are all Canal Zone people. They're always in the
Right.
top floor. They throw yellow flag. Hey, then we got to play super clean.
That's
Okay,
it.
you got to do things 100%, not 150% right, so you don't get in trouble. So we had always that stigma, but we get all kinds. I remember we had some kids come in from very poor neighborhoods, and
Right.
I remember there was one kid that was like lightning. I said, man, this kid is sick, but he was barefoot. I said, hey, we got to get a sponsor for this poor kid. That kid
Right.
didn't
Right.
even know. He didn't speak English. He was trying out. I got him a pair of cleats. I said, run the 40. Let him run the 40. He ran the 40, then he ran the 50, the 60, 100. I never saw him again. So I guess he took those places to go play soccer or something. So there's a lot of these stories that during that time uh,
Yeah.
developed because, like you said, it was all new. It was a whole process.
Sure. Sure.
The Kiwanis every year was about the fourth or fifth week that really started playing intelligent football, where we could talk to each other and tell and do the plays and adjust during the games. Now and then, as I left and I left the league years later with friends from the kids I had coached, Ricardo Rooks, Vieta, they all approached me and said, "Guy, Brother needs help because there's a team. The Owls are dominating. So can you help the Brother program?" And I said, "All right, I'll go back and help the Raiders because they hadn't won a championship at that level." And then the first thing I said, "You know what we got to do is create a younger team, a lightweight team that help feed and get these kids to develop."
Sure.
But I noticed that these kids were coming more prepared. There was more exposure. Like you say, before with CNN, I mean, you wanted to see a football game here, all you could do was down late and pray that they showed one or two games that weekend because
Right.
that's all you saw back then when I was a young kid here. And I used to watch. I was an avid football fan when I was young. Now these kids get it all over cable. You see
Yeah.
Texas
No doubt.
every weekend. You see all the college games. So there's a lot of exposure with it, and so these kids now come up with that, mentality. And one of the advantages, believe it or not, in Panama, is that you told these kids they listen to. They listen to because they wanted to learn.
Right.
When I saw that many times with the Canal Zone or kids that know already or been exposed to TV or hear their fathers coaching them, that, hey, you know what? I'll do it my way, or I know how to get around the coaching, or I'll do it with little effort. But in the Kiwanis, if you didn't do it the right way, you were out. You know,
Yeah.
and I noticed nowadays when I went back to coaching, these kids they have a different mentality. It's a different game. They play. There's a lot of good athletes, like always, but the discipline, the commitment is not the same
Right.
as it was back then. I don't know what but it's a little different. I think the physicality of the game too has changed. I think the game back then was more physical than it is now, but I think also the awareness of injuries and
Sure.
the problems with the concussions, all that plays and I think it's important to teach safe
Yeah. Agreed.
football. But I would say that overall, uh, it, it's just that the game itself or the level of play has actually gotten better. I would think it is very competitive, but the kids also have the ages have been extended. I don't know if it's a year or 6 months. These kids, I mean, you couldn't turn 15 till the end of the season or something. Now the kids can actually play at the age of 15 and turn 16, I think, in the heavyweight division,
Okay.
and they are a lot heavier. I think they can weigh 145. I remember back then you couldn't be more than 135, and that was if you were 15 into the fifth week of the season, where they let you gain a pound a week.
Yeah.
So you started the season at 130. So the kids are bigger, they're faster, they hit harder, and the age has been extended. But uh, I feel that the level and that culture of the Zonians in Panama, it wasn't even the Zonian, it was Pan Canal and also military.
Correct.
Because you could see there was a rivalry between the military and Pan Canal and also Panama and the military. But the military would I think they would even get frustrated because Pan Canal and Kiwanis would always basically beat up on them.
Of course.
It
Absolutely.
seemed like they weren't competitive. But the rivalry games for a long time, I mean, for rivalry with the Rams and Kiwanis, I mean, those games were really outstanding. I don't see that kind of rivalry at that level. Okay, there is good, the Owls and the Rays. School, there's a school rivalry, but it's
Sure.
not what it was back then. So
Yeah.
the
No.
intensity and
You know.
and those games, Friday night games, it was like JC or somebody was mentioning about, or I think Will when the bands would go out and the crowd, and on the other side of Balboa, now there isn't, but on the other side of the field there were these bleachers that
Right.
set up specifically for the Kiwani fans. And I remember they used to stomp. I thought those things. I said, "My God, those people are going to fall off the
Yeah.
stand."
They were
Yeah, I remember
loud. They
that.
made
Yeah.
noise.
Remember
I
that.
remember that.
It was crazy, and I tell you, I've never experienced something to that at that level, at that category, and I don't think you will here. Even though There is a lot. There is more participation, and the football culture has really expanded here. And I think it's a lot of it's social media, television, cable TV. They get it all over. They're more exposed to it. But
Well, football's a very tribal sport, and the other night we were talking about it as well. That whole feeling and mindset, especially on the kickoff of a game, because everybody's on the sideline, shoulder to shoulder. The kickoff team's out there, the kickoff return team, but the rest of the players, they're all shoulder to shoulder. It's a stare down, right? It's a battle that's about to begin, and
yeah,
you talk about rivals. Certainly, the Rams and Kiwanis were a big rival, but there was just by the general setup of the league there was all kinds of built-in rivalries. There was also the Atlantic side Pacific side rivalry.
yeah,
There was the civilians versus the military rivalry. There was Army versus Air Force rivalry. So I mean there was always a rivalry with somebody that made
exactly.
you know the Kiwanis Rams game was certainly at a higher level, but I'm sure that the Albrook Jets got up for a game against the Howard Eagles because that was which one was the better Air Force team, right? And I'm sure that the Clayton Cowboys in Albrook was also, you know, is Army better than Air Force, right? At the
Yeah,
end of the season, remember they had the Turkey Bowl, which was the Army and Air Force played their flag football game. So there were a lot of really cool rivalries that I think is
exactly.
missing from that component nowadays.
Yeah,
Um, but you know, Chicho, when you went up to Oklahoma State, you obviously played in Panama, and you played at what would be considered a very high level, right? You would obviously nobody can argue you were an elite athlete, not just for the Kiwanis, but in the league in general. And when you got up to the states, what was that like to see the level up there of performance? Because it's one thing to be top dog in Panama and not to knock it at all because we had some good athletes down there, but
Mhm.
all of a sudden you get up here and I mean, it had to have been eye opening for you. Like, oh, look at these guys, Jesus, what I get myself into here. What was that like?
Well, I remember when I first arrived into campus, Stillwater, Oklahoma. They had me join like a camp with Jimmy Johnson. At that time, Troy Aikman was there because
Hmm.
Troy Aikman was one of the guys that always trained with Jimmy Johnson. But when Jimmy Johnson went to coach the Hurricanes, then he ended up being recruited by Barry Switzer, and he played for OU 1 year
Yeah,
before he went to UCLA.
UCLA, correct.
Yeah. But I was impressed. I was not prepared because, as you guys know, it's not like you guys in high school. You have a weight program, you go weightlifting and all that. We never went through that in Panama. At
Right.
our age, not even in school. For me, so I had to learn. There was a learning curve. Yes, I had the strength and I had the ability, but I didn't have the muscle, man. I had to work really hard. It was very difficult for me. For
sure.
instance, I could have made it like the first string kicker if I would have been able to kick the kickoff, into
Yeah,
the end zone.
Right. You don't
And,
want to
and I
return.
wasn't
that's
I
tough.
wasn't capable. I wasn't capable.
And
My
you, of
kick.
all people, would understand it because whenever we kick the ball to you, or actually, we would try not to kick the ball to you, because that's you don't want someone that can run the ball back to put their hands on that ball, man. Get it
Yeah,
in the end zone.
but if you want to compete in NCAA, you must be able to
Right.
kick it all the way. Yes, I was very accurate with field goals. I would never miss an extra point. Um, and at that time, we used to. I don't know if you guys remember that field goal tee, that eight, that black.
Yes.
Robert, you remember? You used to be my holder, right?
Correct. Yep. 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 The black,
Just
and
the
I used
block.
to say
Yeah,
it's so easy and easier to place it on the turf,
yeah,
but in Panama with all the rainy season and all that, no, you got to use the block,
yeah,
and it actually made things easier for you, Chicho.
yeah. It was a rubber block.
But not for the holder.
Not for me. No. No. Yeah. It
But
was
when
tough.
I made it to at that time, when I made it to NCAA, we still use that T. that block, that rubber block.
Yeah.
You get more
So
lift.
yes, it was quite a challenge. I wasn't ready for it. It took me like 4 months to start building muscle and being at the same level. It
Right.
was
Of
shocking.
course. Yeah. No, it is. And I mean, you think about it. You know, United States, you have, I mean, literally millions of kids that you can start looking around for, and so these big schools like that have all the ability to bring in, I mean, the best of the best out there. Um, so now, Robert, back in Panama now, the Joyce family. There's a lot of Joyces in the zone and in Panama, and then you had the coach. Where's the relationships there? Which ones are related to who and to what level? 'Cause I'm always curious about
Uh,
that.
well, my cousin Billy, my cousin Kevin,
And Steve, who's
and
on here, he
Steve.
said hello earlier.
Yes, yes. I still remember that actually Billy and Kevin were very active football players. They both played, I believe, in the Balboa Rams and later on in the Red Machine. And along with that, both my brothers, Albert and Richard, played in the Kiwanis.
Okay.
And I still remember that one season. Yeah, my cousin Billy played against my brother Richard.
Oh, nice.
Billy was the fullback, Richard was a linebacker, and it's like, yeah, they give the ball to Joyce and tackled by Joyce. I still remember that. So
That's great.
it was very interesting. So, and yeah, and as far as Ted Joyce, he was our coach in the lightweights in our
Correct.
second, our Chicho and my second year as lightweights. No relation, and
Okay.
I still remember everyone else going, yeah, you're on the team because of your dad. It's like, no, dad, man. And believe me, I mean, it was tough to make the team. There were over maybe 60 kids out there,
Yeah.
60, 65, and they had to cut down to maybe around, I guess, maybe 40, 30, 40, something like
Sure.
that.
30, I mean, 30, I think it was, right? 30?
Oh, about half were gone, and like Chicho said, a lot of the people that you became friends with after a couple of weeks of practicing, they were gone, they were cut.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
So yeah, and definitely, we talked about this a couple of days back. My first exposure to football, and I think you guys, Willie and Ricky, said that it was street football.
Yes.
Street
Yes.
football. I used to play street football with my cousins in Los Rios. We would always get together for Thanksgiving,
Yeah.
and we would start playing and throwing the ball and stuff. So as a young kid, I was already, hey, I'll go over, 5 yards and then 5 yards.
Sure.
So we were doing all that, and obviously once we were done, we went back in and had some turkey and watched the Cowboys and the Steelers
Yeah,
plays.
absolutely. And you did learn from that game, right? I mean, you remember if it was, even if it was three of you or two of you, remember how you huddled up and did a play? You
Yep,
draw it on somebody's shirt. Hey, you turn around and you draw them on the shirt.
yep,
You go this way, that way, and that was your play that you called. But
that
that's
was
your
it.
first understanding of a football play, right? Of
Yep.
how things are going to take place, and then you join the team and you're like, oh, okay, that's a little bit more organized and makes a little bit more
A
sense.
little different, yeah.
Yeah,
You
certainly.
got the basics, but yeah, it was fun. I mean, always been a great sport.
Yeah, no, it really has, and football is one of those. It's the reason why it's the in the United States the biggest sport. There's something about having that level of combat and that strategy involved, because unlike other games, football is stop and go constantly. After every play, you stop and some teams are a little faster than others, but you really are, in the essence of it, you're creating a strategy every single play,
Yeah,
right? And people move around, and nowadays, holy shit, I mean, they move that formation around 20 times before they snap the ball. So it really has evolved into that type of game. Um, now, uh, going back now into your memory banks, and Chito, you can vote for yourself, but best athlete that you ever played on your team? Who was the best athlete on your team?
Who goes first?
Anybody, whoever can
Go
come
ahead,
up with one
Robert.
first.
On
Well,
my
I could. Go
on
ahead.
on my team, it
On your
was
team,
Chicho. It was Chicho. Uh, on the other team, uh, damn, it was probably Steve Gay or John Hearn. One of those two.
yeah, okay, fair enough. Right
Yeah.
on. Okay,
Yeah, I was going to say,
With
Balboa
my
had
age group,
Balboa
the
had really
Kiwanis
good.
that were tough were Ricardo Roots, who's very involved now. Jimmy Mayado, who's participated in the Olympics. He was an incredible athlete. There was also Manny Urrutia, who was also a very, very, very good football player. So
yeah,
those were like the 78 Kiwani codes.
Correct.
okay.
Yes,
78 heavyweight.
Yeah.
Heavyweight.
heavyweight.
Yeah,
Yes.
okay.
Yeah, I would agree with Robert. Balboa had really good players, but the ones that always uh, were there, and Steve Gayer. Stevie was really fast, good hands. Butter hands. Yeah, soft hands. Johnny
And I don't know
Hearn.
if you knew this or not, but he was number 12 for the Balboa Rams.
Number
Yeah,
12.
yeah,
Yes,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, he's famous
I
for that. Just so you
remember.
know.
Yeah.
Also, Johnny Hearn, and also Angel Pena.
Hmm.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
Angel
Angel's a
Pena.
good quarterback. He was a good quarterback. You're right about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, but no,
Hey,
that's
did Dino Wilson play in your time?
I
Do you
don't
know?
remember him playing football. I remember him being an incredible baseball player. I mean, just a
Yeah,
absolute stud at baseball. I don't
in
remember
track and
football.
field. Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
he was
those three
great.
guys on the screen were tremendous football players.
Yeah.
Yeah, that we
Tremendous.
were trying to figure out who the one on the
So,
left is because we see the other
Yu-
ones have their names, but
Yuri
Yuri,
Moreno.
Judy.
Yuri Moreno, Fulo Linares, Manny Urrutia. These
Right,
were,
Robert.
I believe, that picture. They were our assistant coaches, I believe.
Yeah.
And that picture was taken at the Club de Golf, the Parque
okay,
Omar now.
Yeah, that,
interesting.
that was a natural transition because, like teacher said, after they turned 15 or last year of football, boy, they
Right.
couldn't leave the game. They couldn't be away from the game and the
Hmm.
camaraderie and the culture. And they come in, and I put them in, and actually they did a very good job.
Yeah, they
And that's
did.
all part of the legacy that you leave because then these kids then go on later on to
Right.
invest
Absolutely.
time and help the community in terms of the development of the sport.
Yeah. No,
Great.
without a doubt. And that's you're right. And we talked about that the other night. That it was interesting how, for us when we left the Rams, while it was, it's a goodbye, but we knew that next year we're going to be playing for Bulldogs, Red Machine, and now at
Yeah.
that point when I graduated or when I got into high school football, they had the draft. So it was, one of four different teams you could play for. But football went on for us, and even still though, I remember that first year on Saturday nights, I was still at Balboa Stadium, and when the game ended, I was still in the end zone, to high five them and all that stuff, and let them run through. So there is a loyalty there that Kiwani's family, I'm sure, was just as strong as that Balboa Rams family, and so this is one of those examples of it that when you finish playing, you're going to give back now. Now it's your opportunity to be on the other side of that ball with them and help them out. And Manny there, this is a guy that left a legacy in the Rams side of the field as well because
Yeah.
he's one that Coach Cotton specifically always mentioned that was just an absolute class act and a really great player. And that if I'm not mistaken, he played for the Rams initially, didn't he? And then he went to
Yeah,
play.
he played with me lightweights.
Yeah,
He was a guard. I was a tackle. Actually, we were next to each other. He was an incredible athlete and also a linebacker, middle
right
linebacker.
on, right on. Yeah, linebackers always,
Yeah.
linebackers like the cool position in football. Um, but Guy, who was the best player you ever saw? I know I'm putting you on the spot as a coach. You always want to try and be diplomatic, but who would you say is the best player that you
I
coached or
want to
saw?
hear this one.
That's a very tough. I have to plead the fifth because to me though, if you ask me over overall talent and very just over, I think Chico was probably the all around player. But when you talk about athlete, I mean, I see Linares there. He was an unbelievable center and so smart, and he could pick up the blitzes and he could direct our offensive line, and he was our middle linebacker too at the same time. And a lot of these guys were good. They would sacrifice to play inside on the line in the trenches, which wasn't the glory positions.
Right.
But they became very important. But the Rooks brothers, I had Ricardo, Johnny, Romulo. We had other wide receivers. I remember right now. Great athlete in the zone, the Canal Zone too. I mean, I remember Ralphie Furlong. He was a great athlete. Johnny Hearns was great athlete. Hearns and Gayers and I remember Howard. We one time went to an All Star game and we brought these. I can't remember them. There were two wide receivers, and then I think we scored 45 points that game. And all we did was, hey, I tell Romo, drop back and throw it to them. Those guys in the practice were just beating everybody and they just fly down the field, those two Howard receivers. And I think Romo must have thrown for 400 yards in that game. I mean, it was crazy. But those guys were unbelievable athletes, and nobody can catch up or knock them down. And same thing with Clayton. I remember Clayton had some very fast. They just didn't have enough talent, or the coaching wasn't up to par with those teams. But athletes, there was great ones. And but if I had a vote on an all-time player, would have to be Chicho. Chicho was just outstanding, defense and offensive. He did kickoff, punt returns, intercept. He did great. Pick six, all the way catching, just unbelievable. He kicked a field goal in the championship. I think it's the only field goal that was ever kicked in the championship game. I
Right.
Yeah.
mean, come
Yeah,
on.
because field goal kicking wasn't a big thing
Yeah.
in our league back.
Balborans could not kick field goals. I can
No,
tell you
we
that
didn't.
much right
We,
now.
I don't think we hardly even practice it. I mean, extra
Yeah.
point was the best we would do on that. You mentioned something interesting about these great athletes, and then when you mentioned Clayton, I of course think of Eddie Short because he burst onto the scene against
Oh,
us, and it was a memorable game for many reasons. One of which was he ran circles around us and just scored at will. But that brought up an interesting topic, which was those releases and the territories where you played and where you were required to play and we have that here in the states nowadays, even with little league now where kids are going to different schools just to play football with different teams. But what was that like for you guys there, because you had obviously, like you said, a huge territory and a huge pool of players to pick from. um, but there were some players that suddenly found themselves having to play for Kiwanis, you know based
I,
on
I have two stories that really incredible. Manny Urrutia came and I told him, look, I'll give you the release, but you guys have to come on, at least give it a try. We always welcome players that are good athletes. We want to look at them.
Mhm.
And I also look at it from a cultural value. They see, hey, we need that exchange. So it was, I could see the positive. But Manny came, I'm not going to play. I'll participate, but I'm not going to play with you guys. I play for the Rams, or I think like Ricky says that he played for the Rams. I said, fine, Manny, just come a couple of plays, just practice. And after a couple of practice, then it ends up three practice, four or five in a week. And I tell you, I never seen a guy buy into a program and just love his environment like Manny Arruti. I mean, that guy was always. Now, Eddie Short came,
yeah,
same thing. I put him down the violins. I turned on the Callum because he was an unbelievable athlete. Hey, we
sure
got to
was.
get this guy on the team. And I played the violin. Hey, look, Eddie was great. I love it. You're gonna have a great time. We're a lot of fun. We work hard, but we'll do. But Eddie wouldn't. But he said, "No, I'm
Yeah,
gonna say, all right. You gave us the 2 days. You don't want. I'm gonna give you release because I didn't believe like punishing a good athlete because you
right.
could you could be a hard ass and say, hey, I'm not gonna give the release. But any
It's
player
youth
wanted
sports
to
at the
release
end of the
his
day.
because wanted him to play, especially Eddie. Eddie was an unbelievable athlete.
Yeah, he was. He was.
Mhm.
I played with him on Rams, and then I played with him again on Bulldogs, and it was. I mean, just so fast and just and big. I mean, he was solid. So
Yeah,
even
tough,
if you manage to hit him, you better hit him right, or you're not bringing him down. You know. JC, now today's football. It's starting now here in what, a week, or is it this weekend that it kicks off, or what's the deal on
Yeah,
football
let's
down in
talk about
Panama?
that. Yep.
Yeah, it's coming up. They're having like a big party. I think this weekend. They have like this party zone. It's kind of like a
Like a
NXVille
fan
experience.
fest.
Yeah, like a fan fest. Yeah, that's a right way to say it.
Mhm.
And yeah, it's coming up. It's not like the old days, but I think that some of the parents are starting to get a little worried about their kids playing football.
Yeah.
It's getting like in their heads, and so you're
Mhm.
getting maybe less kids playing, more into other sports. But basically, flag in comparison, flag football has like skyrocketed in Panama, especially with the girls. You know, it's like now we have all these national teams, and they go up in the states and they win these tournaments, and you know, and they put Panama on the map. And I'm
Nice.
pretty sure you probably heard of all the teams that come up to play flag football. You know.
Yeah,
Oh yeah,
absolutely.
they're ranked sixth in the world.
Yeah,
Hmm.
Panama's girls flag football is ranked
Yeah,
sixth.
they already won a World Cup, a flag football World Cup.
that's incredible.
The female, the female side, and then now that the flag football's coming into the Olympic calendar,
Sure.
so now they're trying to trying to get more people into it. We're trying to get more better coaches from the states, and overall, I think it's the mentality is like different. More like the girls now are like really into it. I always say because I coach girls in different sports and stuff, and and nowadays I believe, Guy, that the girls are like more into like wanting to be coached. They're coachable, like you said, and the kids are always thinking that they know more than you do, or that they think they're already they already know what's going on, and you don't have to tell me, and the girls are always like trying to like they want feedback. They're like sponges. They're trying to get the most information. And in practice wise, kids don't like to go practice. Like back in the day, like when they used to practice us by the train station, in Balboa, by the Los Siete Cuadros.
Right.
Hmm.
Those were like the worst practice like in the history. I mean, of all the sports that I played, either baseball, football, or basketball, those football practices in that field were like the worst, man. Like I think I can still feel the pain in my calves. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Of course.
Yeah, I mean, it was like the worst. And back to Chicho, because back in the day, didn't Kiwani have like a bad reputation of like having a rosca, like having like favoritism towards certain kids back in the day? You
No,
know, no, you don't think that, you don't think about that, like the coaches like used to favor some players maybe because they were somebody's son or my
no.
friend's son.
Not in the Rams. The
We
Rams was
even we
all
even we even talked about that a couple of days ago, and Guy has a couple of anecdotes related to
Mhm.
that. I mean, you had to win your position, you had to win your place on the team, man.
Definitely.
I used to tell parents, and I was a story that happened to me was I had a son of Jimmy Lacas on the team, and he was a safety, and he was being developed, and he was a good athlete.
And Jimmy
But he
Lacas
hadn't
is
broken the
son of the
percent.
president for everybody that doesn't isn't
And
familiar.
Lou Martellari came in with a couple of his bodyguards to my office. I was at the Bank of Boston. I was an officer at the bank, and they came into my office. Hey, what's going on here? Lewis said, "Oh, guy, let's talk. We just come over to talk. This is the president's son. He's got to play, and I break the lineup." I say, "Look, Lou, you're not doing that kid any favors. He's not going to get him because Daddy says he's got to get. He's got to earn his job,
Right.
and then the team is at with such a high level that kids are going to know you don't. The last thing you do is fool the kids in the huddle. They know who's a good player and who's a bad player, who's not hustling. So you're not doing not any fair. You're actually going to inhibit the kid, and you're going to cause some trauma. So I
Right.
said, let him earn it. And sure enough, about the sixth or eighth week, the kid actually just worked very hard. And I pushed him very hard. And about the eighth week or ninth week, he was starting as a safety. Okay. But I certainly not my time. I would not permit any kind of, and the parents knew I had enough respect from the parents that they wouldn't mess with that kind of situation. Of course, they all try to, hey, get my kid. I want my kid to play. They all complain, but not all of them, but just a few that
Right.
felt that they, and I can understand. All parents want that to happen for their child, but it's not. It just, you just have to work at it. And I even told the kids at the beginning of the season, I don't want you to get disappointed. Some kids were great athletes, and I just told them, look, football's not for you. You don't have to wait. You have the speed, but you're going to be knocked around and pushed around. And I told them, look, you can stay on the team, but I don't guarantee you're going to be able to get on the field very often.
Right.
And some kids, believe it or not, even after I talked to him and their parents, they would stick around. And I admire those kids. I even felt, I looked every reason or excuse to get them into the game because
Right.
those kids gave 150%. There was a kid, I remember, his name was Godoy. He was a small kid, man, half the size. I think it was shoulder height with everybody else. Maybe weighed 80% of the maximum weight. But in all the drills, all the running, all the laps, he was the first kid in and out of the field. And he
Yeah.
gave it all he can, but he was small. And then he played and he got more playing time. and he was tough. And the kids around him got motivated with that. They saw that
Sure.
as a good sign. But you can't fool the kids. And if you start playing that game, you fall into dangerous trap.
Yeah, no,
Mhm.
indeed.
Yeah.
Indeed. No, and and earlier you mentioned when somebody had asked in the comments about, the whole age thing, and I can vouch for that because my dad was player agent. My dad was the one that did the weigh-ins and also verified the birth certificates.
Yeah.
And so
No.
and there was,
Yeah.
I think there was only two, maybe three issues in the years that he was doing it, and I think maybe only one was a questionable birth certificate from a Kiwanis player. I think the other two were from Clayton. But
Yeah.
no, that wasn't an issue. And to your point, when you have 1,000 kids come out to try out, you're going to find a good team. I mean, it's just a numbers game.
Yeah,
You didn't
Correct.
need to worry about
exactly.
fudging
No,
that.
I
It's just
listen.
a sheer
I'll tell you
number.
where that came from, Willie. That came from around my age group. So what happened was Panama came onto the league in '72, and they were horrible. '73, they got a little bit better. 74, 75, they started winning. So what happened in the Canal Zone? We couldn't understand how they got so good so fast. So of course we would say it's because they're
We
older, they're
rationalize it.
bigger. That's
Mm,
that's where that came from.
Uh,
Absolutely, because my year, when I was a lightweight, that was probably the first year your guys started winning, which was '74. So that was only 3 years after you came into the league. So that's where that comes from. It doesn't come from truly anybody really believing that you guys were cheating. It's just we couldn't believe you guys were that good,
right,
that
right.
fast.
And and then there was always the funny comments or whatever you want to call them, where someone's like, "Yeah, they'll come to the game and they drive and they get out of their car," and they're like, "Well, how the hell is this guy driving to a football game if he's playing football?"
All lies. We were just envious how good
Well,
they
but
got
now,
so
in all
fast.
fairness, though, if you knew people in Panama, I knew people that at 15 years old were driving a car. It wasn't that big of a stretch. So it wasn't that
You were
unrealistic.
drinking beer at 15, right?
Yeah, thank
Yeah,
you. I
yeah,
mean, so let's not kid ourselves that that was like, oh, shocker, whatever. But no, it was interesting. So now, JC, we talked about the flag football, how it's gotten big, and the Olympics, which is interesting because flag football now, for you guys that don't know, is an official Olympic medal sport,
Right.
and Panama's had success there. So I'm going to put you on a limb here, or go out on a limb and ask you, what are your thoughts on Panama? Do they have a contender for the Olympics? Can they put together a contending team based on what we've seen?
I think they can put together a contending team to qualify for the Olympics.
Okay,
I'm not sure that we have the team to like the medal, to get
okay,
one of the three medals. I'm not sure. We do have better coaching. I think we have good athletes, kids that have been playing flag football since they're like real little,
sure,
and girls and girls and boys who are basically really committed to playing for Panama. There's a lot of a competitive spirit right now in flag football, and there's like a pride thing. Like we used to have. Guy talked about the difference between players in eras. I think back in the day there was more of a mean streak. I think the mean streak that we had in the '70s and '80s and maybe '90s, maybe we don't have that same mean streak nowadays with the kids. I'm not sure if it's rule changes and the whole, the NFL and basically Kiwani is trying to, to make people have players, learn how to tackle correctly, and then
right.
basically,
Safety,
and yeah, for safety reasons. Yeah, basically, yeah. So things have changed somehow, but flag football wise, we've been like a top seven. We've been like a top 10 worldwide team in men's and women's flag football. I'm thinking like the last 15 years or so.
okay,
So we've been having a good showing every time. I think for the last time we didn't have a good World Cup, but there's another one coming up. I think in 2026. In
right.
2026, I think we're having another World Cup for flag football, and that's going to be now. There's a federación. Back when you guys were here in Panama, no había federación. There was no federation governing and
Governing
controlling.
body, yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah, basically in charge of all these national teams, basically. And there was no now there's no there used to be a separation between the zone and Panama.
right.
And now that you were talking about athletes, I wanted to give a big shout out to a good friend of mine, Alfredo Davidson. May he rest in peace.
Rest in peace. Yes.
He played. He was a great football player. He played for Panama Metro for La Juvenil in
Amazing
Mexico.
baseball player.
and he also made the under 18 national basketball team. So I think that he was one of the best athletes that I remember back in the day. Obviously, Ralphie Furlong and John Hearn and a lot of others. I think I saw Johnny Guardia. I think he was a little older. He played for Kiwani football.
Hmm.
I don't know if Billy Smith played with you guys, Robert. Billy Smith, he played two ways.
Yeah,
Uh,
he
uh,
played with Kiwanis. He played with
Billy
Billy
Smith he used to have like these classes. Remember him? He was like
Billy. Yep, yep.
Billy Smith. He played. You remember, guy? He played defensive line and offensive line two way back in the day. He used to
Interesting.
be a neighbor of mine back in San Francisco, and
Yep.
I
He
remember
was
him.
in Balboa. He was in Balboa High School.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. He was in Balboa.
And
Yeah,
he was a teammate of mine in the Kiwanis, and
exactly.
he served sometimes served as an informal bodyguard and in campus.
Definitely, he was
The
like
week
my.
before the Balboa Rams game was like we're gonna and Billy would be there like hey so yeah, good guy, definitely, I remember him.
Yeah, he introduced me to rock and roll back in the day. Uh,
Nice.
he used to listen to Kiss. To that, you remember that? You remember that
Oh
rock?
Oh,
yeah.
we all started with Kiss. Yes.
Yeah, that was it, man. Absolute Kiss
So
Army.
I got hooked
Someone,
on that. Yeah, I got hooked on Kiss
someone,
back in the day.
Yeah.
someone mentioned also Cazorla. Cazorla was a great running
Yeah,
back for the
Yes.
Rams.
Juan Cazorla.
Yeah,
Hmm.
and
Balboa
I,
Rams, right?
Yeah.
yeah.
He was
Yes.
So
quick.
Yes. Very good.
one of the cases of
He was quick.
or Balboa
Oh, powerful he was.
and Johnny Guardia also played with us, and I remember chasing a guy named Bobby Askew. He played for the
Hmm.
Jets
Yes.
for
Ronnie.
Albrook.
Ronnie Askew.
Ron Askew.
Ronnie
Yes.
He
Yes.
Askew.
was he was big and fast. I remember him.
Man, that guy was a great running back, and
Yep.
Yeah.
and
Ronnie.
so there were really high performance athletes out there that could have played professional easily.
Yeah,
Uh,
we didn't get the exposure in Panama, unfortunately. And there's a couple of them, of course. Leo Barker's probably the one of the more famous ones that went on to play even in the Super Bowl. And
Hmm.
and then of course Daryl Gardner later on, and who's now retired in Panama and played in the NFL, which is kind of cool to have that bit of a legacy when you hear that the Canal Zone name. There's a kid at Ohio State that now is
Yeah, Juan. What is his name? The kid at
Denzel Burke.
Ohio State,
His name is
the
Denzel
cornerback.
Burke. Oh, which one? He's a cornerback. Yeah, he's Denzel Burke is his name. His dad's
Mm.
Yes.
from Cologne. His dad is from Cologne.
Okay.
His dad's name is Safiro Burke, and he was born in, I think it was in Arizona, and he got recruited by Ohio State, and he recently did the combine,
yes.
and he's a prospect. He's an NFL prospect, so he
Yeah,
could.
he's at the combine, so we might have another Panamanian
Yeah,
on.
another Panamanian, and you guys have probably been watching the NFL names and stuff. Fred Warner and
Correct.
Daryl Baker, and we had a Travis Johnson who played at Florida State, who was a first round pick in the NFL. That maybe some people don't know, but he's also Panamanian blood. I had him on my Instagram for an interview during the pandemic. During the pandemic, yeah.
Sure.
And basically we have a nice group of Panamanian. Most of them are Panamanian blood that were born and grew up in the states. Most of them.
Sure.
Frank.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I don't know if
It's
you
yeah.
guys
Same with the
remember
Canal
Frank
Zone
Davis.
kids.
You guys remember Frank Davis? Frank Davis that played for the Lions and the Bengals. He played offensive line. He played for
Yes.
you.
Hmm.
He played for USF. He played for the. He went to Panama. Sent like a team for a jamboree back in the I think it was in the 2000s or so, and he got discovered, and basically when he was up in living in Tampa, he got a chance to get a scholarship to play for the USF Bulls, and then he went to the combine. He was like 6'3", 330, and he could bench press 225 like 30 times. So he was like a beast. He was a monster. You know, so
Wow.
yeah. So and he got to play in the NFL a couple of years. He
That's
got
awesome.
he got injured, and then he ended up playing in the independent league for a Las Vegas team, and then basically he went off the map, and he tried to help out here in Panama a couple of times with some clinics and stuff. And I don't know if you guys been seeing following Panama. We're kind of like the scene now. We're getting NFL players here and there because we
Yeah.
got some
Mhm.
clinics here. We got some
Oh,
people.
that's right.
You know,
Yes, the recuperate their
oh,
bodies.
Ricky Royo, you're a 49er fan, so you know what's up.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. All the
Hey,
49ers were done. I asked you, what are all the Niners doing there? And you told me they're all there to get stem cell.
Exactly, exactly,
Ah,
Brock
exactly,
Purdy
interesting.
was
Look at
Yeah,
down
with
that.
there.
Dr. Patagoria.
Panama, the
exactly,
sports medicine hub.
yeah,
exactly. Yeah,
yeah. Hey,
exactly.
JC, I do remember seeing Jeremy Shockey in Panama playing.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
He
yeah.
lives there, right?
Yeah. Well, he came down here for for party reasons, because usually they come down here for party,
Yeah.
and,
Gospel's
and I
beautiful.
got
Yeah, my
I got like a
gosh.
short story on him. I
Oh,
basically ran into him in at you remember the old Magic place that used to be like a disco club,
Yeah.
yeah,
and
Magic.
then it became a
We talk
gentleman's
about
club.
magic here.
Then it became
Okay.
a gentleman's club, and
Yeah,
I was
Okay.
correct.
and I
Elite.
yeah, something like that, right? And I
Oh,
was,
elite. Yeah, yeah. Oh, I've never been there. I've heard about it though.
right,
Yeah.
right,
Cool.
right. And I was like at some bachelor party or something, and then I saw this guy, this huge guy, this white guy running over tables, in the middle of the club. And I'm like, I was thinking like maybe there's this, ex, maybe army guy, ex Sona guy who was just drunk, and
Right.
you remember that the Zonians used to have that bad reputation, back in the day, But anyways, I ran into him and then I saw his tattoo on his arm. He has like an eagle with the American flag covering it,
Hmm.
and I recognized the tattoo. And I came up to him and I'm like, "Are you Jeremy Shockey?" And I'm like, "Aren't you supposed to be in the Pro Bowl?" And he's like, "No, man, I came down to Panama to party." I'm like,
Nobody
"Hey,
knows him here.
Pro Bowls. Who cares about Pro Bowls, guy next?"
Uh, that is true, and unfortunately, the Pro Bowl has become something nobody wants to even play in now. It's like no, I'll pass. But
Yeah.
and
What do
real
you?
real
Yeah. What
quick,
do you guys
guys.
do? Like, yeah.
I just wanted to showcase your Instagram account there. For those of you who don't know, follow JC if you want to really pay attention to Panama sports. Check this out and follow him because he's got great athletes on there all the time. Amazing baseball coverage and basketball coverage as well. So definitely check him out, man. Because I've learned a lot about Panama sports right here, guys.
Well, I want
Yeah.
to give I want to point out that it looks like most of the new generation is the one who's actually making it through. Because we got Justin Lawrence, who's Lionel Lawrence's son.
Yes.
He was playing for the Rockies. Now he's playing for the Pittsburgh Pirates
Yeah, I
and
saw
Major
that. He's
League,
with the Pirates now.
right. And then you got Colin Castleton, Colin,
Yes.
Mhm,
who was Eddie Castleton's son.
mhm.
He's playing in the NBA. And
And
he's like
Karen Dolan's son.
exactly, exactly.
Yeah.
Karen and Eddie's son, exactly. So you know what's up. We got a few Zonians playing in the big leagues. In the states.
Yeah, no, it's awesome. I mean, the Panama sports has flourished so much, like everything else has. I mean, let's not kid ourselves. Sad that the Canal Zone's gone and all that changed, but Panama as a country is just absolutely flourished and a lot of great success there. To all of you guys can honestly say that you played a role in that. I mean, Panama sports, you know, football in particular became what it became because of the foundation that you guys initially established in there and left a lasting legacy as not just the Kiwani Colts but as pioneers because as we talked about it the other night, remember during the era when you guys were playing, when you guys started in 78, the treaty had just been signed, right? The first steps of that treaty were just getting ready to kick in. So there, like it or not, there was an animosity between Canal Zone and Panama. It's not, let's not kid ourselves. It was there. And in a lot of ways, football kind of was the one battleground where you could, vent your frustrations, I guess, and I think maybe even a lot of parents probably live vicariously through their kids watching those Kiwanis Rams games. There was presidents up in the stands. It was a big deal back then, and so the great thing about it was that even with all that, we were still kids, and so even after that game ended, we still were able to walk out and shake hands and good game, and I'll get you next time though, but it was
Yeah.
always it was intense but respectful, and I can't speak for you guys and your coaching style, but we we did not want to ever lose to the Kiwanis, but we never ever wanted to play nasty football either. It was always with respect and it was just hard fought and you left it out on the field and when you were done, you were
Mhm.
done and it was, a great, great, great memories that we have here. So On that note, I'm going to let you guys close it out with your final thoughts for this show. And I say that because come August, when football season kicks off again, I want to do some more of this again. I think we've gotten a lot of great responses out there, a lot of good engagement. I'd like to take one of your football years and go through it, on one of these episodes, what it was like, if you can remember, maybe get a couple of other players that were there, what that was like, that experience getting up for that season, and hopefully somebody can come up with some pictures or videos or stats or something that help us out with it. But for tonight, guys, closing thoughts on your lasting memories and what you want to leave as your Kiwani's legacy and memory. Guy, we'll start with you.
Oh well, I those are the one thing we'll never lose is memories, and I think that's just great to have those memories and to be able to share this now with everybody and be able to see the communication and people still have an interest and to see the path that we've all gone, even both in our personal life and professional life, and to see everybody doing well, it just makes it that much sweeter. And I think it goes to show that everything's about planting a seed. You plant a seed, and the tree grows and it flourishes, and that's what we do in every day of life. We do it in our family, we do it in our business. So, and this is the ultimate. I really appreciate this, Will and Ricky, for you guys doing and putting this together. Tremendous job. I congratulate you. Good to see Robert, Chicho, and JC, and to share this and with everybody else that's writing in and just bringing it. Just keeps and flashes and memories keep coming in my head.
Yeah.
And the old CPU is still working, I guess. And when you mentioned athletes, I tell you, there's so many. I just thought about the Thompsons. We had a Thompson that couldn't see. He was blind as a bat. He played on the line. What a player! And then the Thompson, I forget his first. We had a black guy, and always said they were brothers. I said no, they're not. One's black and one's white. So not brothers. But that's the things that happen, and it was funny. And in the game, we're all brothers. We're all,
Yeah,
that's a
indeed.
football
Correct.
family. And even when you're talking about the other side, at the end you say the competition. And again, when we go back to the memories, they're so sweet and unforgettable. And I think at least it affected my life in a large way. And I think the impact you have with everybody around you is so important. And we see that now. And that's really great. So good night. And thank you, Will. And thank you, Ricky. And good night to Daisy, Robert, and Chicho.
Yeah. Thank
It's
Yeah,
you.
no,
great to see you
absolutely. It
guys.
was, and I appreciate you sharing those memories because you and I had chatted a little over a year ago when we tried to get this off the ground the first time, and so I've always been waiting for this one to come back because I knew it was, you know, there was a lot to learn, and there's still a lot more to learn about you guys on the Kiwanis. This thing kind of naturally goes in different directions on the conversations, but just something as simple as the other night I asked you, do you call your plays in English or Spanish? This even those little things that were kind of interesting to
Plain
learn about.
English.
Right,
Plain
exactly. So
English.
it was in English, by the way, guys. So in case anyone else was wondering, and not
It,
just
it
my
was
crazy
Scrap
head.
24. Like
There you
Chico
go,
said.
Spanglish. That's what we had there. But
Spanglish. Yep.
nonetheless, Chicho, your closing thoughts, on this whole Kiwani's experience for you.
Well, this program, was unbelievable because it I made friends for life. Um, I was raised in a family that, yes, we were united, but I didn't really have the guidance, that I was given by leaders and kind of like a mentor, such as Guy. When you enter these programs, I was able to practice, the principles and the values that I was taught at home, and I really, honestly can say that because of this program, I was able to get my education, become a professional and an active and productive member of society. I'm proud. I'm proud of being a Panamanian. I was very proud to play as a Panamanian on the field, and like you said, I left it all. I cry every time we lost, and I also cry every time we won, because victory, there's nothing more beautiful than victory. But at the same time, we built a community. Yeah, we had rivalry, but we never became like, 9 de enero bullshit. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Right.
Yeah.
were we were athletes, and
Yeah.
that's how we fought. We knew who's gonna win. So to close, I'm very happy to be here with you guys. I thank you for inviting me,
Of
and
course.
I'm really glad to see faces again, like JC, Robert. I see Robert every now and then, and God every now and then when we're eating, Jimmy's.
Yeah.
Great place.
Again, thank you guys.
No,
This
thank
has
Yeah.
you.
been a life experience.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I said, stay tuned for some of this in the
For
fall
more.
season when the football season kicks off again, and it might be fun to have a show. We've had some folks from the Albrook Jets, Jim
Okay.
Kopsky's, some of these guys that played some earlier times as well, but trying to get some Clayton Cowboys on, some Cristobal Tigers as well. But yeah, I mean, I 100% appreciate getting to know you as the person, not just as a rival on the field that we couldn't stop and we're frustrated as hell with. It's as always you take the uniforms off and we're all pretty cool people, man. We all like the same things, we hate the same things, and
Yeah.
we just happen to be on different teams. But I'm glad we could definitely have this moment here. Robert, what's up with you, man? Tell me
Yeah.
your memories and what you got out of this whole Kiwanis experience.
Definitely a lot of camaraderie, brotherhood, a
Yeah.
lot of direction and coaching from Coach. Not only Coach Guy Nacchio, we had Coach Joey Nacchio, Coach Lou Mastellati, Coach Ted Joyce. I mean, I could go on and on. A lot of discipline. We learned a lot of discipline, and we always kept a positive attitude and never ever. Well, I had said this before. Never thought of the other team as the enemy, but as one hell of a rival.
Right.
As once again as the Balboa rounds were always. You know, and thank you, Willie. Thank you, Ricky. And hopefully, when we do this again, we'll get more people
Yeah.
from our generation, Chicho, and hopefully we'll get more people from our generation that were on the Rams. We talked about Steve Gayer. I've seen Steve. I've seen John Hearn. Your brother Scott.
Yeah.
Willie, and maybe some of these can hop on and just talk about
Yeah.
how these games were, and not necessarily about football strategy, but like other than football, how was it like putting on a helmet and playing against each other, and then once the game is over, we would see each other at parties later and stuff like that.
Right. Yeah.
So yeah, great times, always great memories, and yeah, and really looking forward for the next time I can be on the show.
Oh, right
Right
on.
on.
Indeed. We love
Yeah.
having you on. By the way, anybody ever told you have a radio voice?
No, no,
You do, man. For what it's worth, you've got a great radio voice. But no, listen, it's the one common thing I hear whenever we talk football is always the influence that our coaches had on us, right?
yeah,
And when I coached football, I went into my memory banks for, I mean, every situation. How did Coach Cotton do this? How did Coach Hearn do this? How did Coach Gare do this? Coach O'Connor, Coach Holland, Coach. I mean, I could name them all because they all were a big influence in my life, and they taught me life lessons. It wasn't just the football lessons, it was the life lessons, and that's to me what I always aim to do when I coached was show these kids some great life lessons. And I was
hmm
fortunate enough to coach some kids that went on to play college football. I have a kid that I coached at 6 and 7 years old, like we were talking about earlier, who now is a running back at Army. And
good,
very, very proud moments there. But the real proud moments are seeing that guy that made something of his life and comes back and says, "Hey coach, you taught me how to do this," and that's what told me to make the right decision here. And to me, that's worth any championship and any winning season ever is being able to influence a kid like I was influenced by my coaches. So I'm always fortunate by that as well. Um, JC, let's go to you, man. You're gonna close it out with the Panama contingent there, and again, guys, don't forget JC 360, a great place to get all your sports news in Panama. But yeah, give us your memories. You came a little bit later on, but you've had the good fortune of seeing what the legacy is now in Panama.
Yeah, I'm gonna keep it real short. I'm really happy to see you guys, Chicho, Ricky, Will, Guy, Robert. Like it's been a really pretty fun experience. I didn't know what to expect, but I'm listening. I'm happy that you guys are doing well. I hope you guys do this again. And if you invite me, I'll come on
100%.
again. And basically, what the rest of my colleagues, Panamanian colleagues call me. They call
Mm.
me El Último Sonia. They call me the last Sonia
Right on.
because most of my colleagues are basically, they're basically Panamanians and they're
Sure.
more into soccer.
Hmm.
Usually, they're more into soccer nowadays, and I'm trying to fight for our place, for our
Right.
due rightful place for football, baseball, basketball, and all those sports that I learned in the zone with a lot of pride. So for me, it's always fun. It's part of my job. It's my life, and I always owe it to the Balboa, the Canal Zone schools, basically tradition. So for me, it's been fun. I hope you guys do this again, and I want to give a shout out to all the Zonians that have been on the show. Juan Thompson, I think Gina Rios was on there, Leaf
Yeah.
Somin, and a bunch of the others. For me, it's basically a nice experience. I didn't get a chance to go to the reunion this year. I'm hoping you guys fly down and come to the
Hmm.
reunion maybe here in Panama in la
I'll be in the
próxima.
one in January. This one
Yeah,
coming up. It's my 40th,
Yeah,
so I'll
Yeah,
definitely be there.
it's
sure,
going to
me
be
so
too.
Willie's 40th, I think.
Yes, it is.
yeah.
Yep.
The
I'm
first round, the first round is on me. All right, next time. All right.
there you go. Right on. Excellent. Excellent. Well, listen, guys, it's been fantastic. Honestly, your stories are great. It taught us a lot about that other side that we didn't know a lot about. Obviously being Zonians and being on the American side of things, we knew a little bit more about Albrook and Clayton and those things. But even just finding out where your practice field was, things like that, it's cool. It's a cool little memory that's what this show is all about, is going back to the canals and what we grew up with. So this was a big component and something, like I said, I've wanted to do this for a long time. I'm grateful to you guys. Really appreciate each and every one of you for taking the time to join us and do this. And we definitely will do it again in August or September, sometime when the football season starts. Looking forward to it. But again, guys, Chicho de la Guardia, Robert Joyce, Guy Nacchio, the last Zonian, JC Boyd. Thanks for joining us, guys. We had an awesome show. Appreciate you guys. Have a great rest of your weekend, guys.
You too.
Thank you guys, thank you very much, man.
Yeah, that was awesome. Ricky, that was a great, great show, man. That was
You
now give me
know,
your memories. I didn't even go to you, man. Your
no,
football
listen,
memories.
I appreciate the 50 plus years of Kiwani football. And these gentlemen are the DNA of that
Indeed.
50 plus years
Yes,
of
they are.
football. So you're looking at the structure, the Panamanian structure of football.
Yeah.
And for that, I appreciate you guys coming on. Cheers to you Kiwani coats, man. I
Yeah,
love you
for
guys.
sure. Absolutely. Salute to you guys. Enjoyed it. Looking forward to the next one. Um, Moving forward, guys, great show tonight. We've got a couple of next week, no guest on. It's going to be just Ricky and I, which that can turn into a really long show, but a fun show nonetheless. So stay tuned for that. And again, beginning of the month is coming up again shortly, and we know the beginning of the month, Dave Dahlstrom, our Canal Zone historian, joins us to give us some Panama Canal history and all that good stuff. Next month, Steve Tochterman, by the way, Steve, thank you. Got the book and the shirt. Awesome. Steve Tochterman is going to join us talking about, he's got an amazing book that he co-wrote called Final Flight, Queen of the Air. It's a true crime story about smuggling stuff. Really, really cool book. Thank you for sending that. He also sent me a koozie, awesome, and a t-shirt. So looking forward to having him on to talk about that because, again, it was based off of a true story. And Steve, I'm going to be picking your brain on some other aviation stuff because I'm an aviation nut. And so Steve spent 36 years with the FAA. So that's going to be fascinating. Our class of 75, we still got you guys in mind. Don't worry about it. You'll be joining us soon. Nodier, I'm glad you chimed in here. I want to talk to you about maybe late May, early June to get a Panama Railroad show going. Let's get together maybe this weekend and start planning some stuff out if you don't mind, or the following weekend. Let me know on that one. But great show, guys. I had such a
Great show.
blast doing this.
Yes.
The Kiwanis.
Yeah.
Ricky, do your thing,
Yeah.
man. Get us out of here,
Hey
dude.
guys, thank you so much for participating, being a part of this show. Show great love to our audience. Yes, I truly appreciate
Your audio's cutting out. Okay. Yeah, Ricky's audio. I think I'm not sure what happened to his mic, but it seemed to have cut out. It faded away. But I think I speak for the both of us that amazing, amazing show. Thank you, and again, thank you to you guys joining us and always chit chatting with us. It's really what makes the show what it is. So have an awesome weekend, everybody. Sunday night, I'll let you guys know if we're gonna do a watch along. Take care. See you guys.